Happy Tuesday, 28th to all of you. It is our big NFL show here right now. We just got news of the passing of a legend, and John Madden dead. And what a storied life he has, and it's such a big role in all of our lives growing up playing Madden. Very sad. So just want to talk about it quickly off the top of how much he meant to all of us, I know, and how often we heard his voice in our living rooms growing up. And he had lived a great life, and that's all you can ask for, right? You know, live a great life, and he did that. So rest in peace, John, and thank you for everything you did for football fans everywhere. Thank you guys so much for joining us here in our Beat the Line NFL show here on Pub Sports Radio. We got Real Deal Prime in the house. Joe, Rich, Dennis, Trusty, Jedi for Life, and Trusty says Flightline. We got to watch Flightline in person on opening day at Santa Anita, and muscles on top of muscles on top of muscles. Maybe the fastest horse in the land. Nutflush Allen, who hung with us at that very racetrack with his sweet, sweet family in the house. There's Harold Williams ready to get to work. Danny Lopez in the house. Danny, what's happening, man? All right. Harold Williams as well. What is one of the reasons why I love the NFL? Rest in peace to the great John Madden. It's been a wild 72 hours or so of gambling. It was a really nice, successful day at the track, but I got killed in football on Sunday. Killed. 8-week winning streak didn't just come to a halt. It was horrifying what happened to me. And you know what? They happen once a year. I just hadn't really had one of those weeks where I got absolutely destroyed. And, you know, maybe it'll sharpen me up. I have a 25% in and out every Friday with my local. So, you know, it was a huge loss, but I only have to take care of 25% of it on Friday. And I was in a really good place. I was up really nicely. So it's not like losing the money out of my pocket here yesterday. It doesn't quite work like that, but it still hurts badly, and I need a bounce back desperately. And my son is sick, so I'm barely sleeping. But I tell you what I did do while I was barely sleeping and looking after my sick son. I capped 32 teams and all their COVID issues. And the COVID issues were taking so much time that a couple of them I just said, okay, we'll read off the injury report, because writing down the names of 25 guys was starting to get tiresome. But I'm happy to be here. Patrick says the flight line can get a mile or a mile and a quarter. Wow, East Coast take notice. Jedi for Life says horrible Sunday. Harold Williams went 6-2. Great work. Having a week like this was, I guess, sort of what I needed. I needed to be slapped in the face with these COVID issues going around, believing that I have certain, I don't know what the right word is, but that I have an advantage in certain spots is what hurt me badly. Let's go over review action from the week that was. There's Nasty Nate in the house. Great to see you, Nasty Nate. 49ers -3.5 at -110. Before the game started, my dad put in a bet on the Titans +3.5, and I thought that was the right side. And I already had my 49ers action in. Then the 49ers dominate the first half and are only up 10-0. That pass Jimmy G to usage when he's wide open. You can't even find him now. It turns out that Jimmy G has beat up his throwing hand, and we'll go over all that. And that was part of the reason why he was so shitty. But I knew it was going to come back to haunt me, and it did. There's Sharpie in the house. God, it was so much fun hanging out with Sharpie. My God, he's the fun thing is you wonder if these guys are what they're actually like. You know, you see them on screen, you're like, what's this guy going to be like in person? And he was like, just so much fun. I can't wait to have more Sharpie times in my life. Ravens +2.5. I was already angry, and Saturday night before the Sunday morning show, I couldn't sleep. I knew that these lines had gone way against me because I made all these bets before we were getting the COVID information, and I already knew what a problem it was. And so tonight, I don't think there's anything wrong with putting in any bets. I mean, what is the point when all this COVID stuff is happening so fast? What's the point of getting yourself in a dangerous situation like the one that I put myself in with the Ravens +2.5, a Vikings +3? I mean, you get 3 interceptions from Stafford. He throws 100 for 197 yards, and you can't catch that shit. It was a very upsetting. Chargers Houston over 45.5. That was very easy. The Chargers already have a Swiss cheese defense, and then you take Bosa and others out of it. Derwin James with a hamstring injury, and what happens? Davis Mills looks like a Pro Bowler. Is what happens. So that cashed. Chicago Seattle under 43.5. 25-24 final. Just had to slow down Foles on that last drive, and Seattle was unable to do that. Pittsburgh, Kansas City under 44.5. You'd think if the Steelers score 10 points, a Deontay Johnson touchdown with 3 minutes left filled me with rage, just fucking rage. I don't catch that by 1.5. Steelers plus 8.5 was just a terrible bet. There's going to be some of those. Broncos plus 100. I was very shocked that they weren't able to take care of business there. Then Washington, Dallas under 47.5. Look, that's atrocious. I get it. Browns first half plus 4.5. They only lose the game by 2. Mayfield kept shooting himself in the foot. I thought it was the right play. Jags plus 110. They end the game at the 1 yard line. And that's a nice score if it does. Falcons minus 6.5. Mistake. Detroit, Atlanta under 42.5. It did cash. Patriots minus 1.5 was a mistake. Panthers plus 10 was awful. You guys believing in the bounce back from the Buccaneers were right. And even late in the second quarter, I believe that was going to take care of business. And then Texans plus 10.5 was an easy casher, but it wasn't it was really upsetting. I wasn't going to bet money line anyway. So Mac Beaver says Jimmy G should have reported the injury to the coach and taken himself out of the game. That pick was a killer. I agree, Mac Beavers. And then we could get a better idea what Lance can bring to the table. So I agree with that. There's Bailey in the house. So much fun hanging out with Bailey at the horse track. Nice to see you. Thank you for rolling with us. Harold Williams says, with this COVID situation going on, I'm only betting at game time. Terry Walker had Carolina plus 13. Look, that Texans plus 10.5 went to 13.5. And they cashed out right. Okay, so sometimes you need a wake-up call. You're getting loosey-goosey with your cash. And that's what happened to me. So I got to tighten everything up. It was, I think, the worst week in NFL that I've ever had. I know I've had weeks that hurt more. The week 17 2 years ago hurt. I went 0-8. And then I went 4-0, but actually went 7-0 with totals in the wild card week, and I bounced back, and I need to bounce back here. So I went 3-13 down 11.1 units, and it's embarrassing. That makes me 95-91 on the year, hitting at 51.1%, down 5.95 units, ROI minus 3.20%, average line minus 111. And, it's not a low watermark on the season. It's nothing I got to dig myself out of it. I got to dig myself out of it here. And it was sloppy. I was gambling sloppy, and now I have to rue the consequences of that, and I've got to tighten up the ship. And if no action comes out today, then no action comes out today. All right, let's bring in my co-host on the evening. We have a very tricky 16-game card. Now, all the games are on Sunday. That helps a little bit. Sammy says James Robinson props was my only downfall last week. Well, look, if a player gets hurt, that's the problem with props, sort of. I mean, Sharpie swept the board. Sharpie swept the board running with us at Santa Anita. He went 5-0, and he tweeted all his action out. Let's bring in my co-host of the show, coming to us live from Toronto. Let's bring in, and there's Skylar as well. We got Skylar, Bailey. We got the whole Nutflush fam in the house. Man, it was so much fun hanging out with you guys, with all you guys. As soon as my little guy gets better, we're going to head out to see you guys and spend the day and watch some football and hang with you guys also. It was great having you guys over at Santa Anita. Love you all. Let's bring in my co-host, coming to us live from Toronto, Rob Bebenek in the house.
I'm back.
You are back. Oh, I thought that was real. That caught me. That
was an incredible timing.
It was. Nuke Warrior says bounce back weekend, Jimmy Peaks and Dallas. That's how it goes. For me, in my past, getting a slap in the face like this does sharpen me up. It tightens me up. I don't know why I had so much action. And but yeah, Nuke Warrior, I mean, hasn't been a bad year. I had an 8-week winning streak going into that, so I just got to tighten everything up. There's Crystal Warren says, coming in to cheer myself up. Baby just left to go back to Quantico. I'm a big old mess. Crystal Warren, you've come to the right place, and you come perfect timing because I already just got out all my sadness, and I'm ready to start enjoying capping and bounce back, which is what I desperately need. Bebsie, how are you? How was your Christmas?
I'm wonderful. A little hungover today, if I'm being completely honest with you. But Christmas was it was fine. Got to see the fam. Got to watch a little ball, hang out with Papa Bebenik. It was a good time.
Well, it is great to have you here on this Tuesday, December 28th, week 17. We only have one more week after this until playoff time. And I got my slap in the face. I'm ready to get right to work, Bebsie. Are you ready to rock? Are we ready to get right to work?
I am indeed, and I just want to thank Slatsy for talking to the commissioner and getting Thursday Night Football canceled for the remainder of the year. Really appreciate that, Slatsy.
Well, let's get right to work, Bebsie. We start at 1 p.m. Eastern. Atlanta Falcons 7-8, 5-3 on the road at Buffalo Bills 9-6, 4-3 at home. We're at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. This opened at a total of 44. It's now up a half point to 44.5. Now that's a Bet365 opener. And then Buffalo opened at -14, and now Bet365 has moved that to 14.5. When we go over to the cash flow in this spot, let me pull this out. And here we go. Not a lot of action in yet. That's crazy. I'm just going to refresh this and see if I can get... I think there's more action in the... Okay, here we go. Yes, there is more action. Okay, so we have 3,480 tickets in. We know that 56% of the tickets are on Buffalo to cover this huge spread. We don't know the cash yet. And from a total perspective, just 24% of tickets on the under, but 60% of cash on the under. Falcons come in off an underwhelming 2016 home victory over the Lions. Red zone interception by Foye Oluokun with 30 seconds left, saved the day for the Falcons. Oluokun also had 14 tackles. He's been the heart and soul of this football team all year long, coming in from the Ivy League. He's a great story, and I've become a big fan. Falcons improved to 7-2 in one-possession games, including 4 wins by no more than 4 points. Now, I have them under 7.5 wins at plus 105, slightly over, plus 105, I think it was, plus 110. I'll have to double check that, but I need them to lose out here, and this seems like a pretty nice situation for me here in this game. They earned their first true home win of the year after 5 losses at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They were the designated home team in that 27-20 win in London over the Jets on October 10th. The Lions outgained the Falcons 338-254. The Lions had the ball for 38 minutes and 5 seconds compared to just 21:55 for Atlanta. Now we cashed the under, but we didn't cash the Falcons, and they're just not a good football team. And I don't know why I would take them as this big of a favorite, even with a COVID-ravaged Lions squad. Matt Ryan, 18-24 for 215 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. The running game struggled once again. They combined for 47 yards on 18 carries. And Cordero Patterson, he comes into the game, he's snubbed for the Pro Bowl. Look, that's a mistake by the NFL, but he had it written on his shoes that he didn't care about it, but then why do you write it on your shoes? 1,421 combined yards entering the game. That's 5th in the NFL. But, of course, he had an off game. That shit's in his head. Writing it on his shoes. You could tell this shit was in his head. 7 carries for 14 yards, and he lost 1 yard on his only catch. Kyle Pitts led receivers with 6 catches for 102 yards. Russell Gage had 4 receptions for 39 yards. But that fumble with 2:18 remaining can't happen. And it's hard to trust them. And then they gave the Lions possession at the Atlanta 37. The Falcons couldn't put pressure on Tim Boyle, who was in for Jared Goff, who's still on the COVID list. I do think there was a bit of a capping mistake by me being so confident on the Falcons -6.5. And it looked like the market, believed in that spot. And that's why we saw the 7s come on board. But when we saw Tim Boyle in that one game against the Steelers, he'd just come off the injured reserve. Now he's been practicing for 6 weeks, and he looked better. I mean, he didn't look good, but he looked better. The Falcons came into the game with safety Eric Harris and defensive tackle Marlon Davidson on the COVID list. They've since added defensive tackle Tyler Davison, linebacker Brandon Copeland, linebacker James Vaughters, linebacker Dorian Etheridge, and wide receiver Tajay Sharp. Yes, Chris, my man, we are live. We are live, my man. We are live. Danny Lopez says Clint called the regression on the Bills. They might get on a heater into the playoffs, ride the momentum. Danny, you're absolutely right. Sharpie says Josh Allen rush props to the under. He's won in 5 games this year when they win by 14 or more. Sharpie, I was thinking of that exact situation. And I was saying that with more than just Josh Allen. I know that you've been banking off Josh Allen, but if you're going to bet a quarterback rush prop, you do that in a tight football game or in a game where this team needs, or you do it with like a Cam Newton who has got nothing else. And the only way you can kind of move the chains is by rush yards. But you keep cashing that Josh Allen rushing props over Sharpie, and it's spectacular work. That is the Atlanta Falcons. I don't want to talk for too long before we get, and that was just a real long time on the Falcons. We'll get into the Buffalo Bills, but let's talk about the Falcons here first. Bebsie, what are your thoughts on them as a dog in this spot? And do you think they could possibly make a run and catch that 7th seed and get into the playoffs?
I think it's a tough spot. It's really muddled around that last wild card spot, the last 2 wild card spots. And I just don't think the Falcons have what it takes to get in there. I mean, obviously, this is a extremely tough matchup against the Bills, who I believe could go on a bit of a heater going into the playoffs now. But listen, Atlanta just doesn't have the firepower on offense, and they don't have the talent on defense to really compete. And Buffalo is a legitimate contender. Despite only being 9-6, I think they had a statement game against the Patriots the other day. And I just think this is a really, really difficult spot for the Falcons. So I would say your bet is safe, at least for this week.
There's going to be snow showers, and it's going to be freezing cold. Oh, I guess the snow showers go away right at start time at this point. At least that's the idea. But it's going to be very cold. It's going down. When it pops off, it'll be 24 Fahrenheit, -4 Celsius. And I see this look on the 44. It's gone up to 44.5. We see public moving on the over, but the big bet's coming in on the under. I want you to talk about the total in this spot, but I'm going to talk about the Bills here quickly. Bills coming off a huge 33-25 victory at New England to keep their hopes of winning the AFC East alive. They didn't turn the ball over or punt all game. So Danny Lopez, you're right. This team is running real nice right now. They hold the tiebreaker over New England and Miami, so they're right in the driver's seat to win their 2nd straight division title. They're the first team to win it at New England in consecutive seasons since the Colts did in 2005 and 2006. Josh Allen was 30 of 47 for 314 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He ran 12 times for 64 yards. Isaiah McKenzie comes in off the bench, man. Comes in out of nowhere and is the leading receiver with 11 catches for 125 yards and 1 touchdown. He took the place of Cole Beasley and Gabriel Davis, who are both on the reserve COVID-19 list. There are new COVID rules, and we'll go over them during the show. Easier for players to return now, 5 days, and even for the unvaccinated. So we'll talk about that more. Stephon Diggs added 7 catches for 85 yards. They didn't dial up a ton of pressure, but they played well. Just 1 sack, 4 quarterback hits, but they completely shut down Mac Jones, holding him to just 14 of 32 for 145 yards. Micah Hyde, excellent, 2 interceptions. Left guard Ike Bodiger was carted off the field at the 10:05 mark of the 2nd quarter with a ruptured Achilles tendon, and that hurts them. Ike is like a big fan favorite. He's a character. He's just a great guy that people absolutely love in Buffalo. That hurts them. Starting right guard John Feliciano wasn't cleared from the COVID-19 list in time to play. Also on the COVID list, defensive end AJ Epinesa, wide receiver Gabriel Davis, guard Cody Ford, and cornerback Cam Lewis. Bebsie, why is the under not a look here?
I think it's very much in play. We're talking about a dome team going up against a strong Buffalo defense, and also a Buffalo team that kind of hasn't played great in bad weather. So if you're expecting bad weather, I think this is an easy under. But if we're predicting that it's going to stop at game time, I don't know how we know 5 days ahead of time, the precise moment at which the bad weather will stop. This is why I don't like talking weather, but if it's going to be shit weather, it's going to be cold. Yeah, you can expect a low-scoring game, especially from this at times very inept Atlanta offense. And Sammy might be right. The Falcons could be on vacation mode at this point.
So the team total for the Falcons is all the way down to 13.5, which is ridiculous. It's heavily juiced to the over. The fact that they'll get 14 points, that's probably too little. I'd like to just before we move on, I'd really be curious to see what Pinnacle has it at, as Pinnacle is sort of the benchmark for the odds situation. So let's just quickly see. They have the Falcons team total at 14.5. And look at that. So, I mean, that's so crucial. The over 14.5 is at plus 104, minus 122 to the under. Is there anything Sharpie says this can be a letdown team for a team who just won their biggest game of the year in the Bills? I agree with that, but I think they'll take care of things. Birdie, great to have you, my man. So I would like to probably move on this under with an eye on that team total. Is there anything you want to make official here, Bebsie?
I think this under is a legit look. I think I'm going to hold off for the time being. But if I'm going to move on something in this game, I think it's going to be the under. And if that 13.5 is available for the team total for the Falcons, I think that's also a very legitimate look to take the over on that, because still only 2 touchdowns. They're capable of that, I think. But let me think about it. This under would be my look.
All right, that is your first game on Sunday. Let's keep rolling. Thank you guys so much for joining us here. Pub Sports Radio, NFL Beat the Line show, and I'm coming off taking it right in the heart of the khakis. I need to bounce back after 8 glorious weeks. I fall apart in week 16. All right, let's move on. Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern, New York Giants, 4-11, 1-7 on the road at Chicago Bears, 5-10, 2-5 at home. We're at Soldier Field in Chicago, Illinois. Let's open with the odds here. We have Chicago opening up as 6-point favorites. That's moved to 6.5 at a couple books. It's moved 5 cents at Bet365. This total very low, opening at 38, now down to 37.5. We saw our lowest total of the year come up in Detroit, Chicago Bears. In the Saints Dolphins game. Opened up at 39.5, went down to 37.5, and 23 points were scored. And I know a lot of cappers who think when that low, very low total comes out, they can't make it low enough for those two teams, and they, attack it. Giants coming off an ugly 34-10 loss at the Eagles. Let's move over to the cash flow and see what they are here. 2,206 tickets in. 81% of the tickets on the Bears and 95% of the cash. 47% of tickets on the under and 64% of the cash. I guess when we talk about making moves right now with COVID just infiltrating all these rosters, that the only bet you could probably make before a game goes is the under. Other than that, I don't know. You could get hurt so badly by losing a player. Kent Davies says Sunday showing 16 degrees, gonna be chilly. Jake Fromm started in that 34-10 loss and could get nothing going. 6 of 17 for 25 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. His passer rating was 19.5. Mike Glennon replaced him with 17 of 27 for 93 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That pick was returned for a score by Alex Singleton. I do think that they start Mike Glennon. I think we know what we're going to get from Jake Fromm. Daniel Jones has been shut down for the season because of a sprained neck. The ground game did not look good. Saquon Barkley struggled, 15 carries for 32 yards. He's not looked good all year. Kadarius Toney led receivers with 4 catches for 28 yards. They could get little pressure on Hurts, 1 sack, 5 quarterback hits. Offensive tackle Matt Pert tore his ACL. He's done for the year. And they have a lengthy COVID list that includes cornerback Adoree Jackson, wide receiver John Ross, cornerbacks Keelan Crossan, offensive tackle Nate Solder, defensive tackle Danny Shelton, and safety Julian Love. This Bears team comes in off a surprise 25-24 win at Seattle on Sunday. Had lost 3 straight in 7 of their previous 8. Nick Foles, 24-35 for 250 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. We don't know who's going to start, but we expect it'll be Justin Fields. So Foles started. Justin Fields ruled out with an ankle injury, and Andy Dalton dealing with a left-hand and groin injury. They're both listed as questionable this week. David Montgomery, 21 carries for 45 yards, 1 touchdown, caught 7 passes for 61 yards. He's been very good. The defense was missing many pieces due to injuries and COVID, but they were strong still. 2 sacks, 7 quarterback hits. Robert Quinn just continues to play great. 1 sack, now a 17 on the year. That's second most in the storied Bears history, just behind Richard Dent, 17 and a half in 1984. Offensive tackle Jason Peters, wide receiver Jakeem Grant, and cornerback Xavier Crawford were inactive last week. Their list is questionable this week. Their COVID list is short. Safety DeAndre Houston Carson, tight end Jesper Horsted, and defensive tackle Akeem Hicks, which hurts. Bebsie, take it away here. Giants at the Bears, and it's cold.
I don't know how you certainly can't back the Giants, but I don't know how you take the Bears. This is just a true bum fight. It's a terrible, terrible game of potentially, if Fields isn't ready to go, bad backup quarterbacks. One coach that's for sure going to be fired in a couple of weeks. I just don't, and that total is so low, but I also don't, I can't take the over. That's how bad both of these offenses are. I think Chicago obviously is a slightly better offense. I think the defenses are pretty comparable, to be honest with you. Maybe a few more standouts on the Chicago Bears. Obviously, Quinn being a major one. But I don't know what you could possibly have as a look in this game. I really don't, Jimmy. This is just a bum fight, and I have no interest in it. I know you're licking your chops over there because you adore a good bum fight. But
I do. Always have, especially if they're male.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I honestly can't. I can't give an honest lean on this. I think it's too many points to give to the Bears.
I agree with that, but I just don't see the Giants putting up any points. I
don't know how they do. They don't have a quarterback. Glennon or Fromm, you're screwed either way. So maybe the Giants team total is a look, but what's their team total? It can't be much.
Mississippi Whisper, I can't take the Giants. I can't do it. I can't with their quarterback play the way it is. I just can't do it. Now, I do want to know who's at quarterback for the Bears, so this is probably best for us just to sit back and wait. But and it's dropped down to 37.5 it's just open at 38, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But team props here, they're going to be low. Let's see what they are here. 22.5 for the Bears. And Trusty looking at the under there. That's juice to the over here at Bet365. And 14.5. I don't know how the Giants get 14.5 points. Brady says, I think you have to look Giants. Would this line be 5.5 if Seattle won? 5.5 with a 37 total is way too high, in my opinion. This is a Giants player and nothing. I'm starting to like the Giants here and might be a play. Okay, this is no move for me, but we should talk quickly about what's going on with the new COVID rules and what better quarterback or player to use than Carson Wentz. So we'll do this again later in the show, but a lot of people talking about the COVID issues and what they are. And let's just discuss that exactly here. Sorry, let me find my Colts action. I guess I just blew past the Colts action. But big changes announced from the players union, and we should discuss them. If I could I have just too many pages of notes, man. Okay, here we go. That's not it. I guess I just blew right past it. Oh my God, sorry, what a waste. Okay, here we go. So these are the new Carson Wentz is on the reserve COVID list. He's unvaccinated. These are the new guidelines. They're reducing the quarantine time to 5 days from 10 days for all players. That's the biggest part of it. So unvaccinated, doesn't matter. If they're asymptomatic or demonstrating that their symptoms are improving. So Carson Wentz, who's unvaccinated, before he'd be out 10 days, he'd be guaranteed to be out. He can play this weekend. So he needs the positive test. It would have needed to have taken place yesterday or today, which is possible. And he's asymptomatic and demonstrates his symptoms are improving. That's all he has to do. Mississippi Whisper, no, that's not the case at all. I think it's just the lights here. That's not the case at all. Jared TG says, if you give me $1,000, maybe I'd put $3 on this game. Sharpie, looking at the Barkley props about how bad the Bears are against defending the rush. He says Barkley over 52.5 will be a play of mine. Been eating easy off the Bears rush deep. Penny last week, 17 carries for 135 yards. Barkley hasn't had that game this year, and I think it's time. Crystal Warren says, how are they judging symptoms, though? The issue here is that this has now become a cold or a light flu, and that players shouldn't have to announce anything if they have COVID right now. I mean, I could have COVID right now. What do I know? I've got a sore throat. I'm fine. I'm ready to cap. Let's move on. That's the Giants, Bears. I'm going to do nothing here at this point, but I want to fade the quarterbacks on the New York Giants. That's what I would like to do, and I believe I will succeed.
I don't see them scoring 2 touchdowns, let alone more than 2 touchdowns.
At all. I agree.
I don't know how they do it. I think it was Newquarker who put up the stat that they've put up 63 points in the last 6 games. And listen, the Chicago Bears defense isn't bad. So we really think they're going to bust out in this one? If you're going to look at something, I'd say Giants team total under. But, so that was it Nutflush that said he was going to start drinking? Yeah. For the sake of his liver, let's move on.
Okay, well, let's just touch on the weather. It's going to be freezing, but it's going to be sunny. Freezing cold. So we have at kickoff 18 Fahrenheit, -8 Celsius, 14 mile per hour winds, or 23 kilometers an hour, depending on your math system. Let's move on to 1 p.m. Eastern. Kansas City Chiefs 11-4, 4-2 on the road at Cincinnati Bengals, 9-6, 4-4 at home, Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's too bad that the Browns couldn't use their roster against Vegas to at least set up the possibility of a huge game to close out the season in Cincinnati versus Cleveland. I wish that was happening. It probably is not going to happen. Here we have Chiefs, Bengals, and we're going to get an idea of how good this Bengals team is, because the Chiefs opened up as just 4.5-point favorites. That moved to 5.5. This total opened up at 49. It's now at 49.5. This is going to be, I mean, we just talked about 2 pretty shitty games. This is going to be a really nice football game. 3,202 tickets in, so it's just starting out. We have 53% of the tickets on the Bengals and 79% of the cash, and yet it's moved from 4.5 to 5.5. That's fascinating. Then 97% of tickets on the over and 93% of cash on the over, and yet there's been very little movement there. It's gone from 49 to 49.5. There are some 50s on the board now. Interesting. Jared TG says, how about Joe Burrow? Wow. And Newquarter says, Bengals, my first upset special this week. And Birdie, yes, we opened the show talking about John Madden. And, what a big part of he played in our lives, man. Just his voice. Nutflush says, does this total get to 52 or game day? I think there's going to be biases in place because of how well both teams looked offensively last week. Pie Guy says Browns are technically still alive for the division because they beat the Bengals head-to-head. Yes, and they play the Bengals in the last week of the year, right? So, yes, I believe that's it. Okay, let's go over this. Chiefs coming off a 36-10 beatdown of the Steelers at Arrowhead. They remain the game ahead of Tennessee for first place overall in the AFC with their 8th straight win. They're going to have the lone first-round bye, home field advantage through the AFC playoffs, unless they lose here. The Chiefs were crushed by a COVID-19 outbreak earlier in the week. At one point, they had 13 players on the active roster, 3 on the practice squad test positive. They got Tyreek Hill back. Several others did clear for kickoff, but Kelsey was among the starters that was unable to test out of protocol Sunday morning. Patrick Mahomes, 23 of 30, 258 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Brian Pringle stepped up, caught 6 passes for 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. Derek Gore caught 3 passes for 61 yards and ran 12 times for 43 yards. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a touchdown run for KC before leaving early in the second half due to a collarbone injury. He is week to week. Travis Kelce on the COVID list. Tyreek Hill was kept at bay with just 2 catches for 19 yards. That's another thing that those of you who play the prop market hard must be noticing that when you have a team with 2 star offensive players and one's out with COVID, that other one gets blanketed and other players step up. And if you just took the under, I think that some people would think, oh, wow, it's only Tyreek Hill out there. He's going to go for a huge day. But the reality is the defense will do everything they can to stop that player. Frank Clark, Trishawn Wharton had sacks. Charvarius Ward had a pick. Tyrann Mathieu left in the fourth quarter with a quad injury. He's been dealing with this for a while, but he hurt it in the third quarter. He tried to keep playing. Chiefs linebacker Nick Bolton, right tackle Lucas Nang were activated from the COVID list with Kelsey, but none of them tested out. So neither of them played. Fry handled the kicking duties with Butker and protocol. Johnny Townsend handled the punting duties for his brother Tommy. And still they put up 36 points. Offensive tackle Mike Remmers, defensive end Josh Kando, and safety Armani Watts all remain on the COVID list. Let's start with the Chiefs here on the road. How good are they playing, Bebsie? And do you like them here as a road favorite?
Look, they have been absolutely phenomenal. Like early in the season, a lot of people were writing them off. And a lot of it had to do with that defense. But as soon as that defense started putting it together, they were dragging the offense through a lot of games. And now the offense is firing. And I would not want to step in front of the Kansas City Chiefs train right now. As great as the Bengals have been playing, and how great has Joe Burrow been, and how exceptional are the young receivers and running back and quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals. But this is a Chiefs spot here. I just cannot see anybody stopping them right now. And I feel like, and I'm becoming a big Joe Burrow fan, but I feel like after that insane performance last week, I just can't see him doing that again. And he's going to need to against this Kansas City Chiefs team. So I think I'm going to move on the Kansas City Chiefs on the road here. It's a weird number. I don't like it, but I'm still going to move on them because I do believe that this is the play, and I think the public's going to be on that, and it's going to move up.
I agree with a bunch of stuff that's being said by you and by the chat here. It's actually pretty nice weather in Cincy for this game. It's cold and windy, but it's sunny, 32 Fahrenheit, and the wind will be 19 miles per hour. And I think this total gets bet up. I think Nutflush is right. I think this total gets bet up because it's being hammered right now. 97% of tickets are on the over and 93% of cash. Birdie was asking about where the money is. We only have 3,202 tickets in, but 53% of the tickets and 79% of the cash are on the Bengals. But the market's moving towards the Chiefs. Slatsy says I was on the Bengals team total and full game total last game and cash both. Only way I can look is over here. Damon Santori says, what about the Chiefs' first half? Well, let's talk about these Bengals. They come in off a dominant 41-21 win at home over the Ravens. Burrow was incredible. 37-46 for a franchise record, 525 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. 4th highest yards thrown in NFL history. Norm Van Brocklin still has the record at 554. Warren Moon, 527. And Matt Schaub, 520. How did that happen? T. Higgins caught 12 passes for a career high, 194 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase, 7 catches for 125 yards. Mixon ran 18 times for 65 yards, touchdown. Caught 6 passes for 70 yards and touchdown. The Bengals are punted. 1 sack, 5 quarterback hits. Von Bell had an interception. Cam Sample, their defensive end for them, suffered a left hamstring injury in the first quarter. He's listed as questionable this week. Their COVID list, wide receiver Mike Thomas, defensive end Wyatt Ray, quarterback Brandon Allen, and yesterday they added cornerback Darius Phillips and defensive tackle DJ Reader. Defensive end Khalid Kareem, offensive tackle Fred Johnson, and linebacker Logan Wilson were inactive last week and are questionable this week. So Chiefs spot. I mean, Birdie and Bebsie saying the same thing. Birdie says, interested to know where the money is here. Chiefs are the play here. I'm pissed I missed a better number. Since he could do nothing wrong last week, Chiefs roll here, in my opinion, betting after the show. Wow. So we have the bigger bets coming in on the Bengals, the market moving towards the Chiefs. And Bebsie, you want to move on these very Chiefs?
I do. I just can't. I can't get in front of this Chiefs train right now. them and the Colts, the hottest teams in the NFL. And I mean, one of them's certainly more proven than the other. And I think the other thing, too, is this Chiefs team is battle hardened. And this Bengals team is very good, but they're still learning to be good. They're still learning to win. And going up against a team in this situation, as experienced as the Chiefs are right now in big game situations, that heavily favors the Chiefs.
Well, Circa still has your Chiefs at 4.5 at -109. Let's just see where Pinnacle has moved it here. Sorry. Bet365 has moved it to 5.5. And Pinnacle has these Chiefs at 5.5. Wow. So you're getting a real nice discount over at Circa Sports. You want to lock that in?
Yes, sir.
All right. Bebsie is in his first spot on the board. Bebsie Chiefs -4.5, -109. That is available at Circa Sports. All right. There's strategic investments in the house. Nice to see you, strategic investments. We've missed you. Okay. We are going to roll on. Next up for us is Miami Dolphins at Tennessee Titans. Dolphins 8-7, 3-4 on the road. Titans 10-5, 6-2 at home. We're at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. We have these Dolphins opening up as 3.5-point dogs. That's where they stand right now. There's been no movement at all at Bet365. This total hasn't moved either at 41. Let's take a look at where the cash lies in this spot. We have 3,051 tickets in. 66% of the tickets are on the Titans, and 93% of the cash are on the Titans. Dolphins obviously on a short week. We don't know how many tickets are in right now on the total, but 54% of the cash is on the under. Wild. Okay, let's break this down. Dolphins come in off their 7th straight victory, an easy 23 win at New Orleans against the Saints. 4th-string quarterback Ian Book last night. They become the first NFL team to win 7 straight after losing 7 in a row. Brian Flores improved to 19-7 in games played after October. Tua Tagovailoa, 19-26, 198 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He entered the game with an NFL best completion rate of 69.9%. 19-26. I don't have it in front of me, but it's over 70. I think it's like 72 something, 72.6 maybe. Jalen Waddle had another great game, catching 10 passes for 92 yards and a touchdown. 96 catches this season. So he's passed Michael Thomas for the 2nd most receptions by a rookie. He's 5 short of Anquan Bolden's rookie record of 101 back in 2003. Duke Johnson ran 13 times for 39 yards. Philip Lindsay ran 13 times for 36 yards. Miami's defense looked excellent. 8 sacks, 14 quarterback hits. They intercepted Book twice, once by Nick Needham and once by Brandon Jones. They become the first team in the Super Bowl era to have that many sacks, score a defensive TD, and hold an opponent under 200 yards while allowing no touchdowns or 3rd down conversions. It was Peyton's first time not successfully completing a 3rd down in his 15-year career with the Saints. But their COVID list is cornerback Justin Coleman, wide receiver Lynn Bowden, Robert Jones, tight end Keithan Carter, linebacker Duke Riley, guard Greg Mance, and then today they added Alan Hearns and Solomon Lindley. The Titans coming off extra rest and prep after their 2017 win at home over the Niners on Thursday night. Tannehill 22-29 for 209 yards and a touchdown. A.J. Brown was an absolute monster. God, he was just so dominant, so big and tough, and caught everything that went his way and changed the game. 11 catches for 145 yards. I believe Julio Jones had 1 for 7. Jeremy McNichols, Ryan Tannehill, Dontrell Hilliard, and Donta Foreman combined for 24 carries for 90 yards. The Titans went 9 for 16 on 3rd down, and I was just losing my mind. And these weren't like 3rd and 2s. They were converting 3 and 8s, 3 and 9s. They played without the left side of their offensive line. Taylor Lewin out with an injured back, and now he's on the COVID list. Left guard Roger Saffold on the COVID list. Rookie Dylan Randon's a 2nd-round pick out of North Dakota State, replaced Lewin, and the Titans did give up 4 sacks and didn't look very good there on the front line. The defense combined for 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits. Amani Hooker and Janoris Jenkins each had sacks for the Titans, but their COVID list grew drastically this week. Offensive tackle Kendall Lamb was the only one on it, because we know that they've gone through COVID before, and there's an idea that these teams who've already gone through it aren't going to get hit as hard by it. Nate Davis, Julio Jones, Nick Westbrook-Ikine, linebacker Bud Dupree, cornerback Caleb Farley, cornerback Buster Screen, offensive tackle Taylor Lewin are now all on the COVID list in the last 36 hours. And yet the market's not moving towards the Dolphins. Very interesting spot. Bebsie, Dolphins 3.5-point road dogs. Take it away.
See, I see everyone in the chat back in the Titans here, but I just don't see it. If the Titans didn't win last week, they probably wouldn't be favored here. And they shouldn't have won last week. You watched that game. Jimmy Garoppolo gave that game to the Titans. He left 21 points on the board and gifted the Titans another 7. It should have been a Niners blowout. But as I did mention, Jimmy Garoppolo was due for a stinker. Birdie tried to accuse me of reverse jinxing my own team. What do you think of that, Birdie? Huh? What do you think of that? I was right. I just don't see the Tennessee Titans being able to score on this Miami defense. Now that Julio's out, yes, A.J. Brown is back. Apparently he's allowed to not only push off, but literally throw a DB to the ground and run his route after that. I don't know how he got away with that one. That was insane. But yeah, A.J. Brown will still be able to move the ball. But that's it. And this Titans offense is really, really not playing very well right now. And I don't think they're going to play any better against this Miami team. Yeah, Miami's been shutting down bad quarterbacks, but Tannehill hasn't been playing great. As soon as they lost Henry, he's been pedestrian. And look, this Miami team is also on a roll right now. So I think it's Miami or no play here.
I think the under's got to be in play. There's more heavy winds in this game, 19 mile per hour. It's sunny and nice, but cold. I mean, I think that the under has got to be a look. Do you think that 41 is just too low?
It's very low. But again, like neither of these teams is going to be putting up a ton of points. So I wouldn't bet it. But if you forced me to, I would take the under on this one.
I agree, and I think I'm going to bet it. Pie Guy says, I don't see how either team gets over 20 unless a defensive score. Okay, do you want to move on these Miami Dolphins right now? Because those of you on the Titans, I really think you need to pump the brakes. Not because you've capped this wrong. I don't mean that at all. I just mean that with all of the COVID issues, they've just added 6 or 7 guys and big name guys. So I would wait. I would wait because I think you're going to get a better line. The Dolphins traveled to New Orleans. Now they're traveling to Tennessee, which puts them, in a vulnerable situation for COVID. It's generally the teams that are at home. Now it's probably not smart saying that, but it seems like the teams that get that second straight home game that are the ones that are less vulnerable situations. Jared TG says 17-14 written all over it. Pie Guy says, yeah, Dupree's huge. Harold Williams leaning to Miami plus 3.5. Well, I don't think when the COVID stuff starts coming out, I don't think this Miami plus 3.5. So just to give you another idea here, we've talked about these situations, and I almost think that we know how sharp a book Pinnacle is. If Pinnacle has this game off the board, they have it off the board because they don't know the extent of the Titans' issues. And it's already moved to 3 at circa, plus 3, plus 100. I should pull up FanDuel. I imagine FanDuel will do something nice for you. But let's just see here. You got plus 3.5 at minus 110 right now at Bet365. Should we grab that?
I think I'm going to move on the Dolphins here. I honestly just think they're playing much better football right now. And I see in the chat the reference to the teams that they've played and the quarterbacks that they've faced. Obviously, Ian Book was atrocious, but so bad that the announcers were trying to find other things to talk about than just how bad he was. But look, Miami's another team that's on a roll, and defensively they are locking things up.
Well, Dolphins plus 3.5 at minus 110. I'm going to pull FanDuel up and see if I can beat that, but that will be the spot right now. So I'm going to pull up FanDuel, but we're going to move on. I am close to moving on the under. I think this under will just gain traction. Let's just go back to where the cash is quickly on this. Sorry, I got too many things pulled up here. On this spot, we just have 54% of the cash on the under. We don't know. It's a low, but I like the under. Trammell Sturdivant says Miami's on fire right now. I like Bebsie's take on the Dolphins. Okay. And Real Deal Prime joining that as well. Jared TG says, I'm a Titans fan, but my gut is telling me Miami. Could see it both ways, though. Very interesting game. I think getting the hook is helpful here. And
I also for the people backing Tennessee right now, do you think they would be favored by 3.5 had they lost to the Niners at home last week? Because they should have. The Niners outplayed them. Jimmy Garoppolo gave that game away. So I think if Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't play like absolute trash, then they're not favored here. And they really, well, not by 3.5 anyways. And they really, really should not be favored by 3.5 here.
Strategic Investments giving us great stats here on the side. Keep an eye out for him. He's also written a book on sports handicapping. He's a great capper that we don't have in our chat enough. And I love it. You're right there, Lyles. They sure did win. And Birdie says locking things up versus Flacco, Book, Wilson, Tyrod.
Yeah, Damon Plantor making another great point. The San Francisco, listen, their secondary is Josh Norman and a third-round rookie that didn't play last year. That's who, that's who A.J. Brown destroyed.
All right, let's keep rolling here. I just want to you know what, I'll get Jose to have it set up. Jose, when we get a nice clash between Bebsie and Birdie, let's get that let's get our little
it's fuck you, Birdie, we're fighting, let's go. Oh
shit. There it is right there. We move on to 1 p.m. Eastern. Las Vegas Raiders 8-7, 4-3 on the road to Indianapolis Colts 9-6, 4-4 at home. Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. Raiders come in off their second straight win, a 17-13 victory at home over the Broncos. Let's see what we are dealing with here in this Raiders-Colts spot. And we know the biggest story here is easily Carson Wentz on the COVID list today. So he needs to be 5 days. What's the rule again here? He needs to be... if he has a positive test that took place on Monday. So we don't know. But it feels like that's a pretty difficult thing to ask for here. So I imagine, and I would bet on it, that Pinnacle has this off the board. They do. This is not available at Pinnacle with everything going on with Indianapolis. Let's see where the cash is in this spot. We have 4,577 tickets in, 61% of the tickets and 85% of the cash. And they're thinking Sammy Ehlinger is going to be under center for these Colts. Then from a total perspective, 51% of the tickets are on the over and 72% of cash on the over. Trusty, he isn't vaccinated, but there are new rules out, and we'll go over them one more time. But let's break this down. Raiders coming off their second straight win. They held 3 of their last 4 opponents to 17 or fewer points, which is surprising. I have not thought of this Vegas team as having a very strong defense since early in the year, really. The Raiders, and even then I was skeptical. The Raiders stopped Denver on third down. Denver goes 1 of 10 from third down. The Broncos have 158 net yards on offense. 18 yards on the ground is what Denver put up. It's amazing. It's amazing that they could fill the box and that Drew Lock is so bad. I just didn't look. I know there's a lot of Drew Lock haters that we run with. I just didn't realize he was that bad, that you could fill the box and he still has no chance of beating you. Derek Carr was 20-25 for 201 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He did lose a fumble. Honestly, look, he's not going to win it, and I get it. But to me, Derek Carr is the MVP of this season. How he's kept this football team together through all this horrific shit is so impressive. Now, clearly, he's not even going to be nominated. His numbers aren't that good or whatever. But to me, I've earned so much. He's earned so much respect, and I'm very impressed with how he's handled everything. With Darren Waller still out, they're still going to tight ends nonstop. Foster Moreau, 4 catches for 67 yards. Hunter Renfrow, 3 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown. Zay Jones caught 6 passes for 50 yards. Josh Jacobs looked like his old self. 27 carries, 129 yards. He did lose a fumble. They got 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits. But they have an ever-growing COVID list. Cornerbacks Brandon Faxon and Roderick Teamer, wide receiver Brian Edwards, quarterback Marcus Mariota, cornerback Casey Hayward, linebacker Corey Littleton, linebacker Denzel Perryman, linebacker Kyle Wright, defensive tackle Darius Philon, linebacker Patrick Onwuasor, and guard Jermaine Elumunor, all on it. Will Compton, Darren Waller, and defensive tackle Jonathan Hankins were all inactive last week and are questionable this week. So we have the Colts issues with Carson Wentz, who could play, but I doubt it. Like, he's going to have a positive test or a negative test, on Monday. Colts coming off a very impressive 22-16 road win at Arizona. They won 3 straight, 6-7. Wentz was 18-25 for 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Michael Pittman Jr. caught 8 passes for 82 yards. T.Y. Hilton, 4 catches for 51 yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor, 27 carries for 108 yards. He came into the game as the NFL's leading rusher with 1,518 yards on the ground, 400 more than Joe Mixon at number 2. The offense moved the ball despite missing 3 offensive linemen due to COVID. Then they lose Eric Fisher, their left tackle, and tight end Jack Doyle late in the first half. So then they have 4 of their offensive linemen out. They couldn't get pressure on Kyler Murray, but they played strong despite being without defensive captain Darius Leonard, who was out due to COVID. 0 sacks, no quarterback hits. Chris Reed had a back injury. He left in the second quarter. Ryan Kelly was out for the 3rd straight week due to personal reasons. Their COVID list is ridiculous. Rock Ya-Sin, defensive end Kimoko Ture, guard Mark Lewinsky, guard Quentin Nelson, linebacker Darius Leonard, wide receiver Zach Pascal, safety Kerry Willis, running back Marlon Mack, safety Jaleel Ade, cornerback TJ Carey, linebacker Malik Jefferson, offensive tackle Braden Smith, quarterback Carson Wentz. Now, Andrew Sandejo, inactive last week, listed as questionable this week. He would help, nice safety. And Paris Campbell is practicing and hopes to return. Bebsie, I don't know how you find clarity with this Colts team doesn't have their quarterback, but I don't see how Wentz is going to be available right now. It's off the board at Bet365. It's off the board at Pinnacle. This is off the board here at Circa. No, it's not. But the Raiders, wow. The Raiders are 6.5-point dogs. And you can bet that right now. Unbelievable. Take it away here, Bebsie.
I'm surprised it's not completely off the board, and I don't know how you can honestly bet this with the COVID question marks on both sides. So I'm staying away from it for now. If there's 6.5s on the board, I mean, I think I would take the Raiders and the points if you put a gun to my head. But listen, I don't know how much stock we can put into them beating the Broncos last week because Drew Lock is terrible. And I don't know if you saw, I raised my hand when you were talking about Drew Lock haters in the chat and on this show. I think he's horrible. And so I'm not putting much stock into that. I have to look more at what the Raiders have done for the second half of the season. It's not much, so I understand, especially with how incredible the Colts have been playing. But again, you can't bet this game until you know who's playing. I think this game probably ends up being postponed till Monday or possibly even Tuesday. Maybe not, given the lateness of the season. But I can see it being pushed to Monday at least with such a laundry list of COVID on both sides of this game. The NFL, let's not pretend they care about their players. They care about their product. And with all those guys out, that certainly weakens the show for them. So for me, it's a pass until we know who's playing.
I'm surprised that you can bet the Raiders plus 6.5 right now. With a $5,000 limit. So even like they'll put $500 and $1,000 limits on their college games. But $5,000 limit, I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. I mean, what are your expectations of Ellinger if he's under center?
Someone in the chat said it beautifully. How hard is it to pass off to Jonathan Taylor? No, if Ellinger is in, I think the Raiders stack the box, do everything they can to shut down Jonathan Taylor as they did to Devonta last week. And so it's going to be on Ellinger to make passes. And I have low expectations. So another reason why I would wait and see who's playing quarterback. But I honestly think I truthfully believe go ahead, put all the money you want on this because it's going to get taken off anyways because this game's going to get moved.
Yeah, if it switches dates, you lose your bet. Or you don't lose your bet, sorry. It voids your bet if they switch dates. But, very, very interesting. Birdie says Raiders at a TD is a must-play in my opinion. I'm not waiting if I can get a TD at any of my books. Yeah, I'm surprised. Let's just see if FanDuel has this up. I'd be interested to see this, and then we'll just move right on. So we do know that one book. Yeah, FanDuel, 6.5. So FanDuel and Circa not scared here. I don't really see how you could. Yeah, I like the 6.5. I think the 6.5 makes sense for the Raiders, although it's not available to me. I do not think that. I really do not think that Carson Wentz has already had a negative COVID test. If he's just tested positive, unless it was a false positive, I'm going to see what the Raiders become available for me at. So I'll leave a couple question marks there. Okay. Nukeworker says even if it doesn't get moved, it's a last minute decision for me. I get that. Okay, let's roll on. And let me get this set up here. I've got so many tags open. I wanted to have the Jacksonville injuries up here because they've got new COVID issues. Holy, my goodness. I'm going to refresh this just so I have the latest. But right now, the Jaguars are just being destroyed by COVID. Let's see if Pinnacle has this game up. And they do. As 15.5-point dogs. Wow. All right, Jacksonville Jaguars 2-13, 0-7 on the road at New England Patriots 9-6, 3-5 at home. We're at Gillette Stadium, Foxborough, Massachusetts. It's going to be cold. We have this Jaguar team opening up as 15-point dogs. They're now 15.5-point dogs. His total's gone from 42.5 down to 41 to 41.5. Very interesting. You have to think that they're going to want to put their foot down on the throat to the Jags because they've not been playing good football of late, and that they want to be feeling good about themselves moving into playoffs. These Patriots, cash-wise right now, 2,925 tickets in, 62% of tickets on Mac Jones and the Patriots, and 56% of tickets, 65% cash on the over. Jags coming off a 26-21 loss at the Jets, who had 20 players on the COVID-19 list and played without their head coach, Robert Saleh. Unbelievable. Trevor Lawrence was 26 of 39 for 280 yards, no touchdowns and no interceptions. He ran 6 times for 37 yards. He also lost a fumble. He had the ball at the 1-yard line, 4th and 1 to win the game and to make it not such a horrific week for me. Marvin Jones caught 8 passes for 74 yards. Tavon Austin caught 6 for 68. Laquan Treadwell caught 4 for 54. The Jags lost their top running back, James Robinson, to a torn Achilles tendon earlier in the game. It was sad to see. Ogunbowale came in. He ran 17 times for 57 yards. They couldn't get enough pressure on Zach Wilson. 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits. They lost Miles Jack to the COVID list hours before kickoff. Linebacker Dakota Allen left with a shoulder injury in the second quarter. That hurts. And defensive end outside linebacker Kelvon Chason injured an ankle in the fourth quarter. And he's now on the COVID list. So James Robinson obviously done for the year. Dakota Allen, questionable. Miles Jack is on the COVID. Oh, look, this is ridiculous. So here are the players on the COVID list right now. Even Travis Etienne is on the COVID list. Jeez. Okay.
They put guys who season-ending IR. They bother to. All right.
Ben Barch, offensive tackle. Jordan Smith, defensive end. Laviska Shenault, wide receiver. Miles Jack, linebacker. Dan Arnold, tight end. Chris Manhertz, tight end. Luke Farrell, tight end. Malcolm Brown, defensive tackle. Caleb Chason, linebacker. Devon Hamilton, defensive tackle. Jihad Ward, defensive end. Center Brandon Linder. Guard Andrew Nowell. Laurenti McCray, defensive end. Jay Tufel, defensive tackle. Jacob Hollister, tight end, and Damian Wilson, linebacker, are all on the COVID list for these Jaguars. Ridiculous. New England comes in angry after their 33-21 loss at home to the Bills. They know now the Bills now hold the tiebreaker for the AFC East. Mac Jones could get nothing rolling, 14-32, 145 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Jacoby Myers caught 6 passes for 59 yards. Damian Harris ran 18 times for 103 yards, 3 touchdowns. Their defense could put no pressure on Josh Allen. He threw for 314 yards, 3 touchdowns. The Pats finished with 0 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. And they've added big names to their COVID list. Jawan Bentley, Matthew Judon were added to it today. I mean, those guys are so important to this football team, and they've just been added to this COVID list. I just refreshed it, so I bet you there's new players on it now. But that was like 3 or 4 hours ago that Judon and Bentley were added to it. Let me just quickly see here. And yes, a bunch of new players have been added to it. Wow. Unbelievable. So Brian Hoyer, Cameron McGrone, Ronnie Perkins, Josh Yuki, and Brandon King have been added to it. And I had, who are already on it, Dietrich Weiss, Ramondre Stevenson, Ronnie Perkins, Cameron McGrone. Oh, Cameron McGrone I already had on. Harvey Lange and Yazir Durant. Take it away, Bebsie. What a messed up game.
Well, I wouldn't put too much stock in Hoyer being out, but for me, the look in this, I would lean the under. But we do know that New England is capable of putting up points against bad defenses, which Jacksonville, especially with the COVID, certainly is. But my look in this has to be the Jacksonville Jaguars team total under, because they, well, first of all, they stink. Second of all, they're going against a very talented New England Patriots defense. The Judon COVID thing worries me a little bit, but listen, Jacksonville has, we talked about Etienne, who season was over before it started, but Hyde is done. Now James Robinson is done. They just do not have an offense, and the talent that the young talent that they do have at the wideout position has been a bit underwhelming. I still, and you can write this down somewhere, I still think Laviska Shenault is going to be an absolute monster in the next year or so. But they're not getting it done right now, and I don't see them scoring much of anything. So I'm trying to pull it up here, but I'm having a little trouble finding. Do you have a team total for Jacksonville?
Yeah, why don't we go to Pinnacle first? Because I'm. Oh wait, no. Yeah, Pinnacle has it on the board. Let's go to Pinnacle first. The Jacksonville team total at Pinnacle's 13.5, slightly juiced to the under.
I'm going to take that under because I don't see them scoring.
All right, let's lock that in for you. Bebsie, Jaguars team total under 13.5. I guess it's a little more than slightly juiced, but not so bad. Minus 114. Under 13.5, minus 114. Slatsy's saying that it's 12.5, which I imagine would be at Bet 365 because they just screw you every chance they get. Let me go to team props. And yes, it's 12.5 there at plus 105. But I imagine, would you rather have, I should ask you, would you rather have under 12.5 at plus 105 or 13.5 at minus 114?
No, because I'd still rather have that extra point.
Well, you have it. I need to know what's going on with COVID. I mean, Bentley and Judon. I mean, is Matthew Judon being the best linebacker in the NFL this year?
Certainly been one of them. He's maybe been the most underrated in the NFL. It feels like nobody talks about him, but he's quietly been incredible, and he is having one of the best seasons in the NFL.
Team total under 13.5, available at Pinnacle at minus 114 for Bebsie. I need to know more about what's going on in this one at this point. So I'm going to stay off of it. Nilo, great to see you, my man. Great to see you. I wish you were at Santa Anita with us on Sunday. It was magic. All right, let's roll on Real Deal Prime, giving Bebsie some love. Let's move on to Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 11-4, 5-3 on the road at New York Jets, 4-11, 3-5 at home, MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey. Let's go over to the market and then head over to the cash flow. You have the Buccaneers opening up as 13-point favorites. That's moved to 13.5 with a couple books. This total opened up at 46. It's now at 45.5. Let's move over to the cash flow here. We have 3,543 tickets in. 83% of the tickets are on the Buccaneers. We don't have the cash information yet. Small sample size, I guess. Then we have 55% of tickets on the under, but just 21% of cash. So an expectation that there will be low scoring. I was looking at a comment when I started thinking about the expectation there. Expectation that there will be points scored, which would mean that the Jets would be able to score points. Let's go MetLife. Buccaneers bounced back from being shut out by the Saints by beating up on the Panthers in Carolina 32-6 to win their first NFC South title since 2007. Put up 391 yards of offense. Tom Brady was 18-30 for 232 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Antonio Brown returned from suspension by catching 10 passes for 101 yards. Cyril Grayson caught 3 passes for 81 yards. Keyshawn Vaughn looked very strong, running the ball, 7 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown. Ronald Jones had the bulk of the carries, and we can expect him to do that until he fumbles a couple times and Arians moves in a different direction. 20 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown. The defense was excellent. 7 sacks, 11 quarterback hits. Jordan Whitehead had a pick. Arians said after the game that Shaq Barrett had a mild MCL sprain in his knee. Wouldn't say how long he will be out, but you can imagine he will not be in the lineup this week. And I don't want to do this for every team because it'll slow us down too much. But man, I refreshed this page for my injury page, and it's got all these new COVID issues that I hadn't written down. And for the Bucs, it's Sean Murphy Bunting and Jamel Dean, who've been added to the COVID list, with Mike Evans. And Shaquille Barrett here, they'll say he'll miss at least 2 games. So he has both a sprained MCL and ACL. So Shaq Barrett's going to be out for 2 games. Mike Evans was added to the reserve COVID list today. You know what? I shouldn't have written anything down. That would have saved me so much time today. Raheem Nunez Roches, a defensive tackle, is on the COVID list. Jalen Darden on the COVID list. We knew about that. Levante David, we knew he was on the COVID list. Leonard Fournette dealing with the hamstring. And Patrick O'Connor with a knee injury. He's on injury reserve. His season's done. We knew all that. The Jets coming off a 26-21 home win over the Jaguars while missing their head coach and 20 players due to COVID. There's Boston Nick in the house. Great to see you, Nicky. Nicky coming off of COVID right now. I hope you're feeling better, man. Hope you're feeling better. Would love if you could give us a little update and how you're feeling. We would love that. Absolutely love that. Thinking about you fighting through this illness. Zach Wilson, 14-22 for 102 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He also ran 4 times for a quarterback franchise record at 91 yards, including a 51-yard TD run, which is the longest quarterback TD run in Jets history. Michael Carter ran 16 times for 118 yards. And Nick says he feels great 5 days in. I love hearing that. I think we're about past this COVID section of our life. I mean, it was an awful one. But I think we're kind of moving past that. Michael Carter, 16 carries for 118 yards. As a team, the Jets ran 36 times for 273 yards. Braxton Berrios caught 5 passes for 37 yards, but he returned a kickoff for 102 yards, and it was magic to the house. C.J. Mosley, such a good defender. 10 tackles, lone sack. And they lost their center, Connor McGovern, and tight end Trayvon Wesco to knee injuries. But let's just take a look at what's changed here for the Jets, because they had so many issues that I didn't want to write them down. So let's go over it. So today they lose
Jared You can say that about the Jets pretty much any time, though.
You're right. Guard Isaiah Williams and Bryce Hall, cornerback, were added today, as was Elijah Riley and Jamison Crowder dealing with injuries. Okay, so Connor McGovern done for the year. Trayvon Wesco done for the year. Both those knee injuries, they've lost them for the year. Tyler Kroft, reserve COVID. Mekhi Becton, reserve COVID. And Mekhi Becton's still dealing with the knee injury. So he's done for the season. He's not coming back. They were wondering if he was going to come back. He's not coming back. So these are the guys on COVID. Quinnen Williams, very important defensive tackle. Ryan Griffin, tight end. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, guard. Joe Flacco, quarterback. Jonathan Marshall, defensive tackle. Kenny Yeboah, tight end. Ashton Davis, safety. Elijah Vera Tucker, guard. Michael Carter, corner. Sherrod Niesman, safety. Vincent Smith, wide receiver. Defensive end, Jonathan Franklin Myers. Wow. What an absolute mess. How hard is this stuff to cap? Take it away here. Should the Buccaneers be this big of a favorite, Bebsie?
Yeah, they absolutely should be. I mean, the COVID thing makes it so hard to cap an already difficult game to cap. But I mean, look, the Bucs. I said don't fade Tom Brady coming off a horrible, historically bad performance. And I was certainly right about that, and I think he continues to dominate the Jets as he has for most of his career. I don't see how the Jets score points. With Bunting and Dean out, that's a big problem, but I still don't see how the Jets exploit that. I really don't. I don't see how the Jets put up points here. Between injuries and COVID, their already bad roster is worse. And I think Tom just takes care of business, rides Gronk and Brown, and they're going to smash them here.
Don't let us get hot, Bebsie, you bastard. Don't let us get hot. You've been talking all this shit. Beat the Jaguars' ass. Zach Wilson now a record holder for the Jets franchise. Longest touchdown run for a quarterback ever. Did Joe Namath ever do that? Did he do that? No, that drunk, that alcoholic, that loser. Zach Wilson's the best. And guess what, Bebsie? Here's my piece of advice. Take Antonio Brown props because he's close to incentive. The Jets.
I didn't pull him off. I think he pulled himself off there. Wow.
Oh, dear. Jose, I mean, if that's what you got, I feel sorry for you.
Man. So I guess Jose is on the Jags here. Slatzy says you're going to have to fight Jose first before the main event with Birdie. No, I think a better fight would be Jose and I. Bebsie should probably fight Birdie, but I should just be in Jose's corner. I'll hold his spit bucket. Bebsie, what's your plan here? Do you want to move? And Pie Guy says Jets fans are delusional.
They're literally the dumbest fans in the NFL.
Oh, no, we're gonna get another news break.
Oh man,
Bebsie, I'm ready to fight you 2-on-1. I'm ready to fight you 2-on-1. Me and Birdie are gonna beat your ass.
Bring it on. I will fight you guys both at the same time. And you know what? Let's put a steak dinner on it. I want 2 steak dinners from Jose. I want you paying off steak dinners for the rest of your life.
So you want to put the Bucks minus 13 on a steak dinner?
I'm going to do it. Whoa.
I'm not doing that. No, thank you. Whoa.
Everybody in the audience, now listen to me carefully, is being given a special package, and I don't want you to open it. Do not open it. Cameras are on you, so do not open until I tell you. All right, open your boxes. Open your boxes. 1, 2, 3.
You get a steak. 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 Everybody gets a steak.
Sounds like he's not in, Bebsie. Sounds like he's not in. But he's got all day to decide if he wants it. Did you want to meet a line shop for the Buccaneers for you?
Yes, please.
All right. Well, let's do that right now. I'm going to start with Circa because they gave you such a good line on that 4.5. They also had the Raiders at 6.5. Buccaneers minus 12 there. That is not a very good line. Let's move over to Pinnacle. See what Pinnacle has for you here on the Buccaneers. Minus, what am I saying? What am I talking about? Of course, that's the best line. Sorry, I barely slept last night. Minus 12 at minus 110 available right now at Circus Sports.
Book it.
All right. Bebsie is in on the Buccaneers. Now, Bebsie, I just want to mention this because I'm not calling it out, but I just want to hear your idea. You were once this year a believer of not backing those Buccaneers on the road and only backing them at home for covers. Why
Yes,
is this
and I realize that, but this is Tom Brady in December facing a team he knows all too well, and I'm not worried about that in this scenario. We've got literally the Super Bowl champs and a second year in a row a legitimate Super Bowl contender playing a bad team whose season is long since over with a ton of injuries and COVID. This should be a rout.
Well, there you have it. Bebsie's on the Buccaneers minus 12 at minus 110. Real Deal Prime says this game ain't close. And we move on. We move on to 1 p.m. Eastern. Philadelphia Eagles 8-7, 5-3 on the road at Washington Football Team 6-9, 3-4 at home. We're at FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland. Let's start with the market that we are dealing with here in Philly, Washington. Philly opening up as 3-point favorites. That's moved to 3.5 or 4. This total opened up at 45.5. We now see 46s on the board. Let's move over to the cash flow in this spot. We have 2,736 tickets in. 73% of tickets on Philadelphia, 92% of the cash. Then 42% of tickets on the under, but 92% of cash on that under. Okay. Eagles beat up on the Giants, 34-10 at home on Sunday. The score was 3-3 at the half. These Eagles have won 6 of 8 after opening the season, losing 5 of 7, and they're now in the 7th playoff spot in the NFC. Jalen Hurts was 17 of 29 for 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Miles Sanders ran 7 times for 45 yards before breaking his hand. He will not be available this week, but is expected to avoid a stint on the IR, which would end his season. Boston Scott ran 12 times for 41 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Howard ran 9 times for 37 yards. Jordan Howard is now day-to-day with a neck injury and may not be available either. It could be the Boston Scott show. Devonta Smith caught 5 passes for 80 yards and a touchdown. Alex Singleton had 12 tackles and returned an interception for a touchdown. Rodney McLeod also had a pick. TJ Edwards had 16 tackles. The team combined for 2 sacks and 5 quarterback hits, but they got banged up. So we already mentioned Jordan Howard. Nate Herbig sprained his knee, and Kayvon Wallace left with a hip injury, all of whom are listed as questionable this week. Their COVID list includes Andre Dillard, offensive tackle Andre Dillard, offensive tackle Raven Clark, defensive end Ryan Kerrigan, linebacker Sean Bradley. Yesterday, they added Derek Barnett, Taron Jackson, and Andre Sachere. And I almost feel like I should look up the injury report right now because that was as of 4 hours ago. I don't want to do this for each team. It's just going to take too long. But I just want to take a look and see if they've added a bunch of players here. Philadelphia Eagles. No, that's still the same. They have not added anybody on the 27th. Washington comes in off a disastrous performance in Sunday Night Football, losing 56-14 to the Cowboys. They allowed the most points since 2010. It's the most points they've ever allowed in this series against the Cowboys. They played 124 times. They were down 42-7 at the half. They allowed 389 yards of offense in 30 minutes. Heineke was 7 of 22 for 121 yards and a touchdown, 2 picks. Also punched a teammate. Kyle Allen came in 8 of 10 for 67 yards and a touchdown. De'Ami Brown caught 2 passes for 53 yards. John Bates caught 2 for 45 and a touchdown. Gibson did not look good carrying the ball. Ran 6 times for 29 yards, caught 2 passes for 29 yards and a touchdown. But the defense had holes everywhere. They finished with 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. They looked awful. Let's just take a quick look at their IR right now. And they didn't add anybody to the COVID list, which is a nice situation. So, as you guys know, DeShazer Everett is out because of that car accident that he got in on Thursday. Curtis Samuel, Jamin Davis, William Jackson, cornerback, and Tyler Larson. Tyler Larson's season's done. Achilles injury is done. But Davis, Jackson, and Samuel were inactive last week and are questionable this week. And then their COVID list is not so bad. Is this a bounce back spot for Washington? Can we now? Obviously, you'd wait because the public's going to be all over the Eagles. But is this a spot where we wait and bet the Washington Football Club, or are they just a disaster?
I don't know. I wouldn't have much confidence in them. When you see teams fighting on the sidelines, especially your probably your best two defensive players now that Chase Young is out, but Allen and Payne getting into it on the sidelines is such a bad look. I mean, if you are going to bet Washington, wait. I agree there, wait, because nobody is going to bet them. So if that's who you want, you'll get a better number. I just don't know if they turn it around. I mean, right now they're looking, in that game anyways, they look like the worst team in the NFL. So I personally would not wait and bet them. I'm not interested in taking them at all. That said, it's very hard to have any faith in this Eagles team. This Eagles team has been so inconsistent. They're sitting just above 500, and I can see them shitting the bed here and potentially losing this game. So I don't know. I free play. I take the Eagles, and I do think this is a full scale meltdown for Washington.
I wonder if we can get a 4.5 come Sunday. I wonder. Nuke Worker says Washington football team money line, never bet the Eagles on the road. Gerald Jones says Philly on my card at 3.5 all day. Danny Lopez says I have to bet on the playoff team here with Washington. Can't look any worse, but no way I can put money on them. Real Deal Prime says don't force it. We got Chris Brady joining us. Great to see you, Chris. Hope all's well. I know it's very cold up in the Pacific Northwest right now. Robert Allen says, I tried to stop all of you from taking the Vikings. I cashed big on the Rams. You certainly did, Robert Allen. You certainly did, man. Respect there. I think I'm going to wait and bet Washington. I mean, with the Eagles using so many running backs, do you think that if they don't have Miles Sanders and they don't have Jordan Howard, that they'll be fine with Boston Scott carrying the load?
Yeah, because Miles Sanders is fine, but losing Miles Sanders isn't losing Derrick Henry. You're not losing an elite rusher. You're losing a fine running back, and you're replacing him with an okay running back. So I don't think that's going to destroy their run game. I hate to validate Dennis Garcia's comments about running backs not mattering, but the good ones do, and the other ones less so.
Bell says the football team is terrible. They were down 20-0 in the first half versus Dallas at home 2 weeks ago. Okay, let's keep rolling. But I do think that we play against what we saw last week, and I know it's hard to do sometimes, and we'll wait to do that. But I do think that is the spot. I'm going to wait on that. Let's move on to the next game. Very interesting spot, 1 p.m. Eastern. Los Angeles Rams, 11-4, 6-2 on the road at Baltimore Ravens, 8-7, 5-2 at home at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland. Let's move over to the market in this spot. We have the Rams opening up at -3. That's gone. 3.5 now. 45.5 was the total. It's now at 46.5. When we go over to the cash flow in this spot, we have 2,938 tickets in, 83% of tickets, but just 30% of the cash on the Rams. 17% of the tickets, 70% of the cash on the Ravens. So small amount of bets, but really big bets coming in on the Ravens. And you know what that is. That's because Lamar Jackson's going to play. He's going to practice tomorrow, and he's going to play. Let's start with the Rams. They're coming off a very impressive 30-23 win at Minnesota despite a tough travel schedule and being hit hard by COVID. It was a very impressive team victory. They won their 4th straight game, passed the Cardinals for first place in the NFC West, and Stafford did not look good. Now 21-37, 197 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Robert Allen says Rams -3.5. Don't ignore me again, guys. I'm guaranteeing another Rams easy cover. Cooper Cup. We weren't ignoring you. We weren't ignoring you by any means, Robert, my man. Viper says Baltimore 7-3 against the spread in the last 10 games at home. But I tell you what, Robert, if you want the Rams, don't bet it now because they're going to announce Lamar Jackson in. There's a reason why there's a huge amount of money bet on the Ravens right now. Cooper Kupp continued his excellent season. 10 catches for 109 yards. First player in NFL history with at least 90 receiving yards in 14 games of a single season. Sony Michel had 27 carries for 131 yards and a touchdown. Traven Howard had a big interception, and the team combined for 3 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. Linebacker Ernest Jones was hurt in the first quarter. He didn't return. Center Brian Allen limped off in the second quarter. And a lot of moves there. Coleman, Shelton started at left guard. David Edwards shifted to left tackle to take over for Allen. Edwards moved back to left guard. Jackson entered at left tackle. Starting tackle, left tackle, Rob Harvenstein and backup Joe Noteboom out with COVID. And they handled it really well. Nose tackle Greg Gaines hurt his hand. He left in the third quarter. And Darrell Henderson Jr. hurt his knee in the fourth quarter. And that was his only carry. It was a 17-yard gain. Let's just go quickly over what the Rams are dealing with as we speak, because I knew that things could change but right before showtime because the information on who was put on the list today doesn't come out until about 4 o'clock. So let me just grab this. Here we go. Here we go. LA Rams. So today they put nobody on COVID. So that's good. That's a really good sign. So they have big players on COVID right now. Andre Whitworth, Johnny Munt, Jamil Demby, those aren't big players. Sebastian Joseph Day, defensive tackle. Robert Rochelle, cornerback. That's all that's left. This is a team that's getting healthier. Viper is on the over at this point. New Worker, my man, thank you for rolling with us. We love your insights. And I hope you're having a great holiday, my man. We will talk very soon. So the Ravens come in off a 41-21 loss to Cincinnati. Baltimore now on the bubble to make the AFC playoffs. Their defensive secondary was absolutely destroyed. Burrow goes for 525 yards against them, the 4th highest in NFL history. Lamar Jackson out with an ankle injury. Tyler Huntley on the COVID list. Josh Johnson, who was signed just 10 days ago, started at quarterback for the Ravens. And he looked okay. He does what he does. You know, he was fine. Lamar Jackson is expected to practice tomorrow and is expected to play on Sunday. Josh Johnson was 28-40 for 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Mark Andrews had 8 catches for 125 yards and a touchdown. The Ravens couldn't move the ball on the ground at all. Devontae Freeman led the team with 17 yards. Freeman, Murray, Johnson combined for 16 carries for 39 yards. The defense combined for 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, but couldn't slow down Burrow. Cornerback Anthony Everett suffered a fractured rib, making a first quarter tackle. He didn't return. This COVID list is lengthy. Cornerback Chris Westry, linebacker Justin Houston, linebacker Chris Board, safety Geno Stone, linebacker Christian Welch, defensive tackle Justin Matabuike, tight end Josh Oliver, quarterback Tyler Huntley, running back Justice Hill, wide receiver Devin Duvernay, fullback Patrick Ricard, guard Ben Powers, and guard Tyree Phillips were all inactive last week and are questionable this week. Birdie says Ravens for me here. Was on the Rams last week. As I said, cards are broken. Rams will struggle versus Lamar, who is rested. Also, now would be a good time to bet the Ravens for division and AFC. Bebsie, what do you think of Birdie's take on the Rams? On the Ravens? And what do you think of this spot, Rams, Ravens?
I don't disagree with Birdie here. However, I think my move might be to wait for the line to change when they announce Lamar Jackson and then bet the Rams. This is a huge, huge game for the Rams because they don't want to have to win next week against the Niners, who have beat them 5 straight to secure the division. So this is a big, big game for them. But also, I think Slatsy made the comment, but Cooper Kupp going against this secondary, that's going to be another look for me. I'm going to take Cooper Kupp's rush or receiving props because he's going to annihilate the secondary. And also, they might be getting Cam Akers back, which is interesting. I don't know if I'm the Rams, I probably don't play Akers until the playoffs. But if he's ready to go, he's ready to go. And that's pretty impressive considering he tore his Achilles in preseason. But yeah, the look for me is going to be to wait and see this line movement once they do announce that Lamar Jackson is back, and at which point I will move on the Rams.
So let's talk about this secondary. Is this secondary incapable of slowing? Because Stafford has not looked good the last couple of weeks. What do you?
He has not looked good for the second half of the season. And he could very well be battling back injury. He obviously isn't 100% because he was tearing it up to start this year, and he's slowed down. However, Cooper Kupp is still getting massive production.
He still is. There's no doubt about that. He's having one of the greatest years we've ever seen in the history of the NFL. I agree with Birdie here. I think this is a spot you're not going to get 3.5. I mean, the hook's going to be gone for sure. The hook should be gone in the morning. I think. I think you made a really good point about not wanting to need a victory next week. But God, I got so burnt by betting the Ravens early. I've not moved on one side so far, but I think Ravens plus 3.5 with a healthy, rested Lamar Jackson at home going to invigorate the boys. So I think I'm going to move on that when this show's over. I've only got a couple other bets here, a couple unders that I'm going to add. So you're going to stay off this game, and then when they announce Lamar, move on the Rams?
That's my plan here, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, let's keep rolling. That is all of the 1 p.m. games locked and loaded. Let's move to afternoon action, and we start with the game that I will be at live with my dad. Denver Broncos 7-8, 3-4 on the road at Los Angeles Chargers 8-7, 4-4 at home. SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, baby. If anybody's going to be at SoFi this week, hit me up on Twitter. Let's have some beers at halftime. This is going to be fun, and more fun for me because I don't have a dog in the fight. My dad has a very difficult time watching the Chargers these days because their defense is so unbelievably atrocious. The Chargers open up at -6, but just at -105 at Bet365. That's moved to 5.5. This total opened up at 45.5, and it's now at 45. The cash flow here in this game, we have. Move over here. We have 2,244 tickets in, so small sample size, but they're all over the Chargers. 52% of tickets, so it's a pretty much 50-50 public situation, but 98% of the cash is on the Chargers. Then 37% of tickets are on the under, and 99% of the cash is on the under. B-Ball going to be there too. My man B-Ball met up with us. Oh, no, he says the Chargers are killing him. I'm not saying he's going to be at the game. B-Ball, is so much fun hanging with you at Santa Anita, my man. I got you. I got you for life, my man. That was really, really fun. You're a great dude. Let's roll here. Broncos coming off a 17-13 loss at the Raiders that severely damages their playoff hopes and hurt me financially. It's their third loss in 4 games. The Broncos were just 1-10 on third down. They had just 158 yards. Drew Lock in for the concussed Teddy Bridgewater was 15-22 for 153 yards. And the Raiders played their cards. We saw exactly what they were going to do. They showed their cards. They were going to fill the box and make sure that Javonte wasn't going to beat them and Melvin Gordon wasn't going to beat them because they knew that Drew Lock couldn't beat them, and they were absolutely right. Their offense was completely shut down. Broncos rushed 16 times for 18 yards. Jerry Jeudy led receivers with 3 catches for 60 yards. Bradley Chubb had a pick. They combined for 2 sacks and 2 quarterback hits. Offensive tackle Lloyd Cushenberry, defensive tackle Mike Purcell, and Andre Mintz were inactive. Oh, no, they've been added to the COVID list, I believe. Sorry. I believe that they have been added to the COVID list. Let me just go over this very quickly as it's right here. This is just, it's taking the fun out of capping. So Bridgewater still in concussion protocol. And yes, so Purcell and Mintz were added to the COVID list today. So they joined Cushenberry. So they have a pretty small COVID list. They're a pretty healthy group. Defensive tackle Jonathan Harris, linebacker Kenny Young, quarterback Teddy Bridgewater were all inactive last week, and our list is questionable this week. Chargers coming off an ugly 41-29 loss to lowly Texans. It was about the only thing I did right last week. Ravaged by COVID, an already weak Chargers defense looked awful. Herbert, though, 27-35, 336 yards, touchdown, 2 picks. No Austin Eckler. Justin Jackson looked very good, 11 carries for 64 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also caught 8 passes for 98 yards. He did lose a fumble. He looked very good. Jason Moore caught 3 passes for 56 yards. Keenan Allen caught just 4 passes for 35 yards. And that goes back to what we've been talking about here in player props. So many of the weapons for the Chargers were out, but Keenan Allen was in. And so they blanketed him. They had double coverage on him all game, and he didn't hurt them. So Joey Bosa, Eckler, Mike Williams, center Corey Linsley were the big pieces that were on the COVID list. Drew Tranquil left in the third quarter with a leg injury, but this COVID list is hurting them badly. So let's just go over one last look of this COVID list and then hand it over to Bebsie. These Chargers, so they added today long snapper Matt Overton, offensive tackle Trey Pipkins, cornerback Devontae Harris, place kicker Dustin Hopkins, their safety Gilman. Yesterday they added cornerback Michael Davis, Nazir Adderley, cornerback Chris Harris, and Mike Williams. So there's Mike Williams is out. That's why they're moving him here So Chris Harris is out, won't play against the Broncos. And Nazir Adderley. So these guys were already on the COVID list, but they're not playing on Monday. Those guys. The players that we don't know if Jalen Guyton could get better in time. Trey Marshall as well. Keelan Hall, cornerback, is able to be healthy. And Joey Bosa could be back in time. And Corey Linsley could be back in time. Wow, what an absolute mess. Holy shit. All right, take it away here, Bebsie. Sorry about drawing this out, but it's just so important if we're betting it. Should the Chargers be this big of favorites with all these players out?
Well, I think this is indicating that they're expecting to get at least some of these key players back. And I believe they will as well, which is why I think I lean Chargers here because, listen, this could be a get-right spot for the Chargers given the fact that Teddy Bridgewater is not likely going to get out of concussion protocol in time to play. So it's Drew Lock going against this defense that should be getting Bosa back, which is huge. I mean, he's everything on that defense right now. And he's not even having a particularly special season, but he's still Joey Bosa. So I think this is still a Charger spot. I don't know. I can't bet it. You're right. COVID is taking the fun out of capping. And it's just ruining football right now entirely. I think I like that they're trying to make adjustments. I don't know how you do. This whole thing's been so fucking unpredictable anyways, but lean Chargers here. I think this is a get-right spot, and I don't think the Broncos win again until they either get Teddy Bridgewater back or we're looking at next year when they hopefully draft a quarterback. They need a quarterback or trade for one. Jimmy Garoppolo might look real nice in a Broncos uni.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get him out of San Francisco at this point after what we've seen. I think we've seen enough. I think that this has to be a stay off at this point. I think it has to be
absolutely. I can't bet it. If you forced me to, I would probably take the Chargers. And that's mostly because I believe even against this very good Broncos defense, I think the Chargers can that offense can put up some points, especially if they get some key pieces back.
Burgundy Bet says you can't responsibly lay money in points for the Chargers anymore. Sure, they would win and cover, but they also shouldn't have lost by double digits to Texans. I think the problem with fading the Chargers right now is how bad they looked last week, and they're going to be back home. So I think that you want to hesitate. And I make this mistake still, believing in what I saw last week, and you shouldn't. And then the Broncos could be, if they could get Teddy back, and why wouldn't they? It's just a concussion, and we've seen enough of Drew Lock. So I'm not going to move here on this. I can't fade the Chargers after how bad they looked last week. Although I would, if I had a free play, I would take the Broncos plus the points right now. But I think that might be a terrible blunder. You're right. This is probably a buy low spot on the Chargers, and I'm going to stay off. Slatsy says he went by my place. Says the pigeons were all inside watching TV and drinking my Kraken. Okay. All right, let's move on to more afternoon action. 4:05 p.m. Eastern. Houston Texans 4-11, 2-5 on the road at San Francisco 49ers. Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, California. San Francisco opening up as 15.5-point favorites. That moved quickly down to 12.5. This total opened up at 45. It's now down to 44. We go over to the live odds. We have 3,200. There's live market moves, I should say. 3,265 tickets in. 15% of the tickets are on the Niners and 94% of the cash. So people believing, I guess they're believing that Jimmy G is still going to be a quarterback. I don't know. We'll hear what Bebnek thinks about that. Then we have 43% of tickets on the under and 53% of cash on the under. Texans coming off their most impressive win of the year, 41-29 at home over the Chargers. Davis Mills, 21-27 for 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Chris Conley caught 3 passes for 60 yards and a touchdown. Brevin Jordan made an appearance. Speaking of 4 catches, 56 yards. But speaking of a monster performance and out of nowhere, Rex Burkhead, 22 carries, 149 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They picked Herbert off twice. Tavier Thomas returned 148 yards to the house. 16 players missed the game on the COVID list. Brandon Cooks. These are the main ones. You had top receiver Brandon Cooks, center Justin Britt. You had defensive end Jonathan Greenard, but he's been out for a few weeks. And then Fairbairn, their kicker. But they won consecutive games for the first time this season. Texans beat Jacksonville last week, and David Culley is getting a lot out of his players. You have to think that there's 2 teams who are really bad that are still fighting really hard, and that's the Texans and the Jets are still fighting hard. Let's just quickly go over this Houston team because they added David Johnson to the COVID list today. Quisenberry and Hewitt are out. I thought I had Quisenberry and Hewitt notes here, but I don't. I thought I did. So Hewitt is is on the COVID list, and I believe Quisenberry is as well. It doesn't say that here. Philip Dorsett, the barely used receiver, is not going to play the final 2 games of the year. Amendola, wide receiver, and Terrence Mitchell, quarterback, were inactive last week, and Ellis is questionable this week. So here's the guys. I told you about Cooks. They have Titus Howard on the COVID list, Justin Britt, Jordan Jenkins, defensive end, Roy Lopez, defensive tackle, Lonnie Johnson, cornerback, safety, Eric Murray, linebacker, Tay Davis, linebacker, Eric Wilson, defensive tackle, Jaleel Johnson, defensive end, Derek Rivers, defensive tackle, Malik Collins, and Jonathan Greenard, as well as guard Lane Taylor, all on the COVID list. So is A.J. Moore, safety. What an absolute mess. Let's talk about the Niners. They come in off extra rest and prep after their disappointing 2017 loss to the Titans on Thursday night. Just their second loss in their last 7 games. They were up 10-0 at the half, and that they completely dominated that. I knew I was in big trouble when it was only 10-0 at the half because it should have been 21-0 or more. This was the Niners' first loss after leading by 10 or more at halftime under Kyle Shanahan in the whole Shanahan era. They'd been 18-0 in the regular season and playoffs with those leads previously. They hadn't lost a lead as a team like that since week 14 of 2016 under Chip Kelly. Jimmy G did not play well, injured his hand in the second quarter to add to his problems, sustained a UCL tear and a fracture in his right thumb, but he stayed in the game. He's listed as questionable. 26-35 for 322 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Deebo Samuel caught 9 passes for 159 yards, ran 5 times for 32 yards. He's spectacular. Kyle Juszczyk caught 3 passes for 45 yards, was wide open for an easy score in the second quarter, but was a terrible pass thrown to him, caused an incompletion. Juszczyk is such a hell of a football player as well. Jeff Wilson Jr. ran 14 times for 45 yards. Niners defense looked good. 4 sacks, 9 quarterback hits. They shut the Titans out in the first half, but they couldn't get key stops on third down. and 9 for 16 in those situations is atrocious. Aziz Al-Shair is so good. He just looks better week in and week out. He hurt his knee. He didn't return, and now he's out for the rest of the regular season. He's not going to play week 17 or 18. The Niners are dealing with tons of injuries, but they don't have much of a COVID list to worry about. I'll see if anything was added in the last 3 or 4 hours when Bebsie's going off, but the only one that was on there is Mitch Wisnowski, their punter. Emmanuel Mosley will miss week 17, their cornerback with an ankle injury. Safety Tavarius Moore is not coming back this season. Running back Trey Sermon still on IR with an ankle injury. Linebacker Dre Greenlaw will not play in week 17. Elijah Mitchell, defensive tackle Maurice Hurst, and safety Talanoa Hufanga were all inactive last week, and Ellis is questionable this week. Chris Brady says, I like the over. San Francisco will put up points. Whack Prescott says Jimmy G's worth 3 points to the other team. You know, Bebsie, to lead you into this game, my dad bet the Titans before the game started, and he kept saying that he has a secret weapon. I got a secret weapon in this game, and his secret weapon was Jimmy Garoppolo, and he enjoyed it immensely as Garoppolo shit the bed. Take it away here, Bebsie. Big game for the Niners, Texans, San Francisco.
I have to lean Niners here. They're in a must-win situation. They were given a gift with Miami dominating on Monday Night Football and beating the Saints. But yeah, they have to win, and I think, look, there's almost too much stock being put into Jimmy Garoppolo here. I'd rather hear that he's out, because I do believe that Trey Lance gives them a better opportunity because, well, for one, his finger or thumb doesn't have a torn ligament and a missing piece of the bone right now. And look, Jimmy Garoppolo has put together some good games in the second half of this season, but you knew that game was due. He loves to play terrible sometimes, and he did exactly that, and he cost them that game. I'm still waiting to move to find out who's playing quarterback, because if Garoppolo's in, I don't have faith in it. But if Trey Lance comes in, then I have faith in them. But I think in this must-win scenario, San Francisco is going to take it to this Texans team that's, coming off a win. They beat up on the Chargers. I don't think they're doing that 2 weeks in a row, and I certainly don't think the Niners are going to have a meltdown on the season here. I just think there's too much character on that team to fold right now. So it's a Niners look for me, waiting to hear what's going to happen at the quarterback spot, but hoping as a fan that it's Trey Lance coming in, and might be able to get a better line if Trey Lance comes in.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. What were your feelings on watching Davis Mills play? Because my dad was extremely impressed.
Look, Davis Mills, and I mentioned this earlier in the season, he was the number one recruited quarterback out of high school. He was just constantly injured in college. He tore both his ACLs. So the physical traits are there. He's a big guy. He's got a big arm. And I think the Texans could potentially have a real steal there with Davis Mills. He does impress me. And I honestly, I have a soft spot for guys who have major knee injuries in college and can turn it around. Obviously, my boy Frank Gore being a big case for that. So I really do hope the best for him. And I have been impressed by him so far. And I think he could potentially still blossom into a solid starting quarterback. I don't think he's ever going to be a star, but he certainly has the physical makeup to be one.
Damon's saying this line is insanely weird. Is it because Texans' rush defense is so bad? Are the 49ers capable of running the ball down anybody's throat right now with the injuries they have at the running back position and needing Deebo Samuel back there?
Well, Jeff Wilson's there, and I think Elijah Mitchell will be ready to go this week. So they're going to have two of their three better running backs playing. Obviously, losing Mostert for the year after week one sucked because he's that home run guy. But we've seen them get it done with Mitchell. We know that they can get it done with Wilson. Hasty's also a solid piece. I'd really like to see Sermon get back. I think he's going to be a big contributor going forward with them. Obviously, didn't get it done this year, but I think with Mitchell and Wilson, they're in more than capable hands.
So no move for me. I do not want the 49ers at this price. Steve G saying the Texans plus 12.5 is enticing. I think it's dangerous if we believe what we saw last week, just because of the injuries and COVID issues to the Chargers defense. But I get it. That's why I'm not on Niners. Anything you want to make official here? And can you just touch quickly on this total that's sitting at 44? It's dropped a point.
I think the over is an enticing look here because look, the Texans put up points against a vulnerable football team last week, and we know the Niners secondary is very, very vulnerable with who they have playing corner for them right now. And the Niners, look, they're capable of manufacturing points. Honestly, my biggest concern is if Jimmy Garoppolo plays, do not bet the Niners. Because when he plays and he's not 100%, he's terrible. He's played with, now mind you, I've seen him play with high ankle sprains where he can't plant and then he throws ducks, usually to the other team. I don't think it's going to be any better with a torn ligament and a broken bone in your hand and your throwing hand. So I would wait. If Jimmy Garoppolo is playing, fade the Niners. If Trey Lance is playing, you might actually see this line move down, and then I would bet the Niners. That is my honest opinion, despite what Birdie might suggest. There is no reverse jinx. There is just honesty here.
Just honesty here. Let's move on. As you know, we're never going to sell you anything. So you're right. I like that, Bebsie. Let's roll and keep rolling. A note here from Trammell saying closing line value on the Rams. Lamar going to come out shaky at best. Not like he was playing his best ball in the last few games before injury. I don't think Lamar going to come out and light it up. Interesting. I like the Ravens plus 3.5. It looks like that's going to be the only side that I move on early at this point. Let's see if that changes. 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Arizona Cardinals 10-5, 7-1 on the road at Dallas Cowboys 11-4, 5-2 at home at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Let's start with the market that we are dealing with here. We have Dallas opening up as 5-point favorites. Let's move to 5.5. This total is shot up quickly. It opened up 50 at Bet365. It's now 51.5 or 52. Let's take a look over at the cash flow in this spot. We have 3,228 tickets in, 60% of the tickets on the Cowboys, 83% of the cash. Then we have 90% of tickets on the over and 96% of cash on the over. Cardinals come in off an ugly 22-16 home loss to the undermanned Indianapolis Colts. They failed to clinch a playoff spot for the third straight week. They're 3-5 since starting the season 7-0. Kyler Murray, 27-43, 245 yards, a touchdown, no picks. He also ran 4 times for 74 yards. Chase Edmonds caught 8 passes for 71 yards and ran 16 times for 56 yards. So he was their leading receiver. And that's a problem. This Cardinals wide receiving core used to be so deadly with so many weapons. You had their leading receiver, a running back, their second leading receiver, a tight end. Zach Ertz caught 8 passes for 54 yards. Then Christian Kirk's next. He caught 7 passes for 48 yards. The DeAndre Hopkins injury starting to loom large over this wide receiving core. The defense did put pressure on Wentz, sacked him twice, hit him 7 times. James Conner, running back James Conner, and Rondale Moore were both inactive, and it hurt them. Conner dealing with a heel injury, 700 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns. Moore dealing with an ankle injury, 54 passes he's caught this season. Cornerback Marco Wilson hurt his shoulder near the end of the first half. He didn't return. The Cardinals were missing 3-time Pro Bowler center Rodney Hudson and punter Andy Lee due to COVID. And this is a giant game. So I brought up the injury report to see if anything was added. Javon Hagan, safety, and Breon Borders, cornerback, are on the reserve COVID list. That was today. Yesterday, on Monday, Sean Harlow, the guard, is on the COVID list. Marcus Golden, linebacker, was added to the COVID list. And then other than that, it's the people we already know. It's Andy Lee, the punter, from the 22nd. DeAndre Hopkins on for the year. Sorry, excuse me. That's it. So they don't have they're not dealing with a crisis like some of these teams are. Whether that will change in the days leading up, we'll have to keep an eye on. Cowboys coming off a dominant 56-14 win at home over Washington Sunday Night Football. They're up 42-7 at the half, tied a franchise record for first half points. They'd already put up 389 yards of offense in the first 30 minutes. Most points since a 59-14 victory over the Niners in 1980. Washington allowed its most points since 2010. Ugly. Dak was 28 of 39 for 330 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Amari Cooper, 7 catches for 85 yards. Malik Turner sighting 3 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown. Dalton Schultz, 8 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown. I believe 2 weeks ago he was targeted 7 times, made 7 catches. So he made 8 catches. He was targeted 9 times. This guy just doesn't drop balls and gets open. It's just a hell of a tight end. The defense swarmed, 5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, an interception by DeMarcus Lawrence that he returned 40 yards for a TD, another pick by Trayvon Diggs. If you saw the way they acted when DeMarcus Lawrence returned that touchdown, that they love him. They love this vet. Love him. And he said this is the best defense he's ever been on. Micah Parsons had his 13th sack. He's 1.5 from breaking Javon Kearse's NFL rookie record that he did with the Tennessee Titans in 1999. Dallas left tackle Tyron Smith missed a 2nd consecutive game. 5th game overall this year with that ankle injury. He's been bothering him. Malik Hooker and Jordan Lewis went on the COVID reserve list during the week. And today they put on a punter, Hunter Niswander. Yesterday they put on linebacker Francis Bernard. So Jordan Lewis we already mentioned, and Malik Hooker we already mentioned. So they're not bad. They are not bad with this COVID list. Tristan Hill, defensive tackle. Not bad. Very, very big game here. And I wonder if we can use what everybody's been seeing recently from these two teams. But you know what? Maybe the Cardinals are just done. Let's hear what Bebsie has to say.
The Arizona Cardinals are the Pittsburgh Steelers of last year. Remember when the Steelers started 11-0 and then they shit the bed horribly? This is Arizona. They're being figured out. They've lost some key players for sure. But it's fade the Cardinals. Dallas is getting stronger. They're playing great. Arizona's going the other way, and it's not a last week thing. It's the last 6 weeks. This is what we're seeing. We're seeing one team get exposed, and we're seeing another team get hot. And somebody in the chat was talking about Kyler Murray rush props. Not with Micah Parsons on the field. No chance. Do not. If you're going to do it, take the under. But yeah, this Arizona Cardinals is very, very vulnerable against this Dallas Cowboys team. And I can't see them moving the ball against this Dallas defense. And there's no way that Cardinals D is going to stop that Dallas offense.
So do you want to move on the Cowboys here?
I'm going to move on the Cowboys here.
All right, well, let's line shop for you and see what we can get you. We'll start with Circa, see what Circa's hanging. They're hanging, oh my goodness. Circa's afraid of this. They're hanging the Cowboys -3.5, but it's at -137. It's something they do when they don't want action on one side or they feel like they've got too much action on one side. Try to create a situation where they can get it on the other side or people will stop betting it. -5.5 at -105 at Pinnacle. I imagine that's going to be the best number. We'll take a look at what FanDuel is offering here. FanDuel is offering the Dallas Cowboys at -5 at -110. Would you like that? -5, -110 on the Cowboys?
I would like that.
All right, let's lock that in for you. And other books are all at 5.5. All right, Cowboys for Bebsie. Cowboys -5, -110 at FanDuel. All right, let's keep rolling. But before we do, Trammell says Mac Beavers, talking to Mac Beavers, a great capper in our chat, says, no letdown this week. Cardinals too banged up. Plus already clinched 2. Cardinals can drop the last 2 games, still make the playoffs. And that would end up with the Cardinals at, that would mean the Cardinals end up at 10-7. Yeah, you're right. They'll still get a wild card spot. Do you think the fact that the Cowboys have clinched the division will take anything off their game?
No, I don't think so, because I think they still they could still potentially get the number 1 seed. Probably not, but they could still. And I don't think it's time for them to take their foot off the gas. That's for sure.
All right, let's roll on. Not flush. Much love to you, my guy. Okay, let's roll on. But Tremel says books don't need Cardinals to cover. They're going to get plenty of Cardinals money at +5. People placing them in teasers. Dallas will roll 14-point win probably. Wow. All right, let's move on to Carolina Panthers. 5-10, 3-4 on the road at New Orleans Saints. 7-8, 2-5 at home. We're at Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. Start with the market that we're dealing with. We have New Orleans opening up as 7-point favorites. That's moved to 6.5 at Bet365, but there's 7.5s out there. It's strange. This total opened up at 38 and it hasn't moved. All right, respect, Robert. I'll keep an eye on that, my man. Then let's move over to the cash flow here in this Carolina spot. We have 1,412 tickets in, 72% of the tickets, 97% of cash on the Saints. Then 79% of the cash on the under. We don't have a ticket count yet. At this point, it is not enough action. Panthers come in off an ugly 32-6 loss at home to an undermanned Buccaneers squad. They fell to 10-21 in 2 seasons under Rule. The fans were chanting "Fire Rule" during the game, and they booed often. Both quarterbacks struggled. Cam Newton started 7-13 for 61 yards. He did run 5 times for 42 yards, but he lost for the 13th straight time as a Panthers starter. Darnold came in 15-32 for 190 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. The Panthers running backs combined for 9 carries for 14 yards because they just dared Newton or Darnold to beat them. I think that Rule should be fired because of switching quarterbacks each year they're not getting better switching quarterbacks the way they have. I just think that's enough to can this guy.
Look, I understand taking a flyer on Sam Darnold. It didn't work out. Bringing Cam Newton back was insane. But yeah, he should be fired for a myriad of reasons. You could have gone after Gardner Minshew. You could have got him. He's a capable quarterback.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I don't know why Gardner was just sitting there and still is. Birdie, by the way, talking about the Cowboys, says Cowboys want that number 1 spot. Says no one wants to go to Green Bay in championship game. And he's right.
Sometimes Birdie is right.
Shai Smith caught 3 passes for 86 yards. Robbie Anderson caught 5 for 58. DJ Moore caught 5 for 55. They got no pressure on Brady. 0 sacks, 1 quarterback hit. Stephon Gilmore became the latest cornerback for these Panthers to get hurt. He left in the second half with a groin injury. And Brandon Zylstra was placed on the COVID list right before the game. Let's just take one look at if there's been any changes here for these Carolina Panthers. And there have been. God, this is all come out in the last few hours. So center Sam Tecklenburg, reserve COVID list. Defensive tackle Davion Nixon, reserve COVID list. Defensive tackle Phil Hoskins, reserve COVID list. Defensive end Marquise Haynes Sr., reserve COVID list. Yesterday, Matt Paradis, their center. Linebacker Shaq Thompson. Defensive end Brian Burns. And then Brandon Zylstra. Wow. What an absolute mess. They already had cornerback Rashard Melvin, guard Dennis Daly, Pat Elfine. Wow. What a mess. The Panthers are going to get destroyed here as long as Book is not the quarterback. Saints coming off an ugly 23 home loss at the hands of the Dolphins. Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian on the COVID list. 4th string quarterback Ian Book started for the Saints. COVID outbreak took 16 players off the roster. Book was 12 of 22 for 135 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Lil Jordan Humphrey caught 3 passes for 70 yards. Marquez Callaway caught 4 for 46. Alvin Kamara ran 13 times for 52 yards. The defense kept them in the game, but it wasn't enough. They finished with 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and Marshawn Lattimore had the pick. New Orleans scratched starting left tackle Teron Armstead, not ready to return from his knee injury. They need him badly. And this is the COVID list, and I need to check now. I broke this game down earlier in the day, so I need to double check, but these are who's on it already. Malcolm Jenkins, their center. Defensive tackle Christian Ringo. Offensive tackle Jordan Mills. Safety Jeff Heath. Guard James Carpenter. Linebacker Caden Ellis. Linebacker Demario Davis. Offensive tackle Ryan Ramczyk. Safety JT Gray. Defensive end Carl Granderson. Wide receiver Deontay Harris. Linebacker Quan Alexander. Tight end Adam Troutman. Quarterback Taysom Hill. Quarterback Trevor Siemian. right tackle Dwayne Washington, and tight end Jawan Johnson. And let's just see, because you have to imagine that Simeon or Taysom Hill are going to be healthy. What's this line at right now? Sorry, let me just 6.5. God, maybe that's just too much. I'm going to go over and see if anybody's added to this list, Bebsie. But while I'm doing that, why don't you take it away here? We have the Saints at home to a Panthers team that looks awful. Oh, you're muted, my man. I think. My computer's fucked.
If Book is still at quarterback, I don't know how you don't blindly just take the under, whatever it is. It could be 10 points, and I'd still be interested in the under. They were so inept with him at quarterback, and Carolina has been inept at offense all year, no matter who's at quarterback. The only thing that would worry me about that is if they do get Taysom Hill back, and they probably will. And the Carolina Panthers have obviously lost some key players to injury and to COVID on that defense. It's the only thing that worries me about that. New Orleans, look, they're still potentially in a playoff spot. If they win out, they could, depending on what other teams do, they could be in the playoffs. And I don't know. I certainly trust Sean Payton more than I trust Matt Rule at this point. But I'm staring at this under, and it's the only thing that I really, really want in this game.
And it hasn't moved, sitting at 38. If Taysom Hill's still on the COVID list and Trevor Siemian comes off, do they still cover by over a touchdown?
How does Carolina put up points against this Saints defense?
This defense looks so good. And they hadn't allowed a touchdown for a long time. And that I love the play calling for that Dolphins first touchdown in the second half. Their first half touchdown was a pick six, but the play calling was so, they had a flea flicker in there. They had all these different plays to see how they could get one on this excellent defense. This total here is, of course, off the board at this smart book. Pinnacle is keeping it off the board. Let's go to Circa and see what I can get you here for the Saints total. And it is at wow. Oh, there it is. Sorry. -6.5. Oh, sorry. The total at 38. Yeah, it looks like we all have 38s and -110. I will see if FanDuel can beat it, but oh, yes, they can. There you go. 38.5 -110 available at FanDuel. You want it?
Yes, sir.
So, Bebsie.
Just while you lock me in here, my dog just knocked over something heavy downstairs, and I've got to go look at that.
No problem. I'll give you a heads up. I'm going to start breaking down the Detroit Lions at Seattle Seahawks.
All right, I'll be right back.
All righty, let's get to work. 4:25 p.m. Eastern, and I do think I'm going to move on the Saints right now. I think it'll just get worse once Taysom Hill is in. I think it moves to 7.5 as an angry Saints squad. Mac Beaver says if Saints make the playoffs, Sean Payton should be coach of the year. All right, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, the Detroit Lions 2-12-1, 0-7-1 on the road at Seattle Seahawks, 5-10, 2-5 at home. We are in Lumen Field in Seattle, Washington. Pie Guy says Panthers stink. Jimmy, lay the points with the Saints. Let's talk about this market right now in this Lions Seahawks game, a game that nobody wants to watch except for people in Detroit and Seattle. Seattle opening up at -8, now sevens. Sevens across the board. This total at 42.5 has yet to move. Let's go over to the cash flow here. Click that. In the cash flow, we have 2,433 tickets in. 36% of the tickets, 79% of the cash on the Seahawks, yet it's moved a point in the direction of the Lions. 45% of tickets on the under, 60% of cash on the under. Let's go. Lions coming off a 2016 loss at Atlanta with Jared Goff on the COVID list. Tim Boyle looked much better at quarterback, 24-34, 187 yards in the touchdown and the pick. The pick was at the Falcons' 1-yard line with 30 seconds left to seal the victory for the Falcons. So he had a chance to win the game for him. Goff has been activated from the COVID list, and he will play on Sunday. DeAndre Swift missed his 4th straight game with a sprained shoulder. He's listed as questionable. His replacement, Jamal Williams, ran 19 times for 77 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown had another strong game, 9 catches, 91 yards, 1 touchdown, and he had 2 carries for 19 yards. He joined Calvin Johnson. This is what Amon-Ra St. Brown's done. A lot of people don't know how good he's playing right now. He joined Calvin Johnson as the only Lions players with 4 straight games of 8 or more catches in the history of the franchise. Their defense was strong despite missing cornerback Amani Oruware. Oruware is a monster. I think he's so good, but he's got a thumb injury, and his season has ended. They combined for 3 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. Dean Marlowe recovered a huge fumble with 2:37 left, giving them the ball at the Falcons 37 to go for the win. I can't say the word Marlowe and not think of the wire, man. Tight end Shane Zylstra was carted off the field with a knee injury in the 3rd quarter. And this Lions team's been hit really hard by injuries and COVID this year, and they've battled through it all. They lost cornerback Jeff Okudah right at the beginning of the year. They lost Pro Bowler and spectacular center Frank Ragnow. They lose linebacker Trey Flowers, tight end TJ Hawkinson, cornerback Amani Oruware. All the season-ending injuries. That's just to name a few. Linebackers Julian Okwara and Josh Woods were inactive last week, questionable this week, and their COVID list is getting lighter. They have receivers Quentin Cephas, Trinity Benson, and Josh Reynolds on it, but I'm going to double check and see if they add anybody today. You know what? I'll just set this. I don't. God, I'm taking this COVID stuff is just taking so long for us. They added Brock Wright, a tight end, a little used tight end. That's all. Oh no! Yesterday they put Josh Reynolds on it. Did I mention Josh Reynolds? I must have. Yes, I did. Okay. All right, let's move on. Seahawks coming off a disappointing 25-24 loss at home to the Bears on Sunday. Couldn't hold on to a 17-7 halftime lead. Eliminated the Seahawks from the NFC playoff picture. They were already assured of a losing season, and Pete Carroll hits double-digit losses for the first time in his tenure with the Seahawks. Seattle played his 3rd home game with snow since Lumen Field opened in 2002. Just 3 games in snow. Russell Wilson, 16-27 for 181 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Gerald Everett caught 4 passes for 68 yards and a touchdown. DK Metcalf caught 2 passes for 41 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Lockett returned from the COVID list, but didn't look very good. 3 catches for 30 yards. Rashad Penny was a monster. Sharpie jumped on the show early and said that you have to bet these running backs that are going up against the Bears. And Penny, 17 carries, 135 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 7.9 yards per carry. Carlos Dunlap, Rasheem Green each had 2 sacks. Linebacker Bobby Wagner set a franchise record with his 168 tackle of the season. What a beast he is. The Seattle COVID list includes offensive tackle Brandon Shell, defensive tackle Brian Moan, cornerback DJ Reed, cornerback Bleswan Austin, and linebacker LJ Collier. Adrian Peterson, John Radigan were inactive last week and are listed as questionable this week. I'm going to see if anybody's been added to this list, but let's hear what Bebsie has to say. Bebsie, Seahawks opened up at 8. They're now at 7. Jared Goff is in. Take it away.
I honestly think it's Detroit or no play here. The Seahawks, let's see how they respond to being officially eliminated. But I think they probably felt their season was done anyways. And they lost to the lowly Bears and Nick Foles. And I just think this is too many points to give Seattle the way Detroit has been fighting and the way Seattle has been Seattle. I think I don't know if the organization is done with Pete Carroll. They should be. I think the players seem to be done with Pete Carroll. And look, I said this at the start of the year that Seattle was going to drop off, but I also said you can't count them out with Russell Wilson. Well, Russell has been fine. He was injured this year, but he's not been the same Russ. And DK Metcalf, maybe the most overrated receiver in the league. He's a big, huge dude that runs fast, but his routes aren't great. And he drops a lot of passes, and he's really, he's good for a couple of big plays here and there, but he's quieted down a ton. And I just think this Detroit Lions team is fighting and fighting hard. And I think the Seattle team that is not used to losing is super deflated.
I agree with that breakdown. I'm surprised to see sharps on Seattle at this point. 39% of the tickets, 79% of cash. It just doesn't make sense to me. How do the Lions not keep this within 7? I mean, I just think they do that. I think they do that.
I mean, unless Jared Goff starts having flashbacks of being dominated by the Seahawks, except he wasn't. They always beat the Seahawks. I don't see it. I just feel like the Lions have the advantage here with all these points.
I agree. I can get you the Detroit Lions right now, +7, -109 at Pinnacle. It's moved to 6.5 at Circa. It's -110 everywhere else, but you can get -109 at Pinnacle. I think I join you in this. It's going to be a public play. We know that. That's what scares me.
I mean, what scares me is just as a Niners fan, Seattle does all kinds of things to fuck with my head, and why wouldn't they here? But I just, look, one team, to oversimplify it, is one team is playing hard for their coach, and that team is not the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, Trusty's saying, would you fire Dan Campbell after this year? I would give him a raise. That's what I would do. He's been everything you could ask for a team that's losing and losing and losing and losing and losing. He goes out there and he shows emotion and he cares so much that he's almost crying at the end of games, and they've been good. There's my guy Guillermo Zertucci in the house. Went over to G's house after the big day at Santa Anita, and it was just so memorable and so wonderful. And he cooked up a storm for us, and God, it was fun. I wish that Cowboys Washington game didn't make me angrier and angrier as it went on. Not that I was on Washington, but I was foolishly on the under. Let's not even go into it. But G in the house. Man, what a great guy. Okay. So I'm worried about this being too public of a play, but the public's going to win sometimes. The public's going to be all over the Lions. Okay, I'm going to give you the Lions +7 at -109. That's available not at Circa, FanDuel. No, Pinnacle. Excuse me, Pinnacle. Circa had it at 6.5. I'd like to go with you here. Terry Walker says, fire Dan. Look, what do you think about what he's done this year, Dan Campbell, Bebsie?
Look, I think he took on a team with very little talent, lost some of the better talent that he had to injury, and still managed to have a lot of games where his team was competitive when they were greatly outmatched. I think, whether he has the football mind to actually win when he has a good team remains to be seen. But he's proven already that he's a great motivator, and look, that team likes him. So if I'm a Lions fan, I don't want him going anywhere.
Oh,
not now anyways. Like, give him a chance. Nobody's winning with that roster. I don't give Bill Belichick that roster. He's not winning with it. They're fighting for Dan Campbell. So, man, a lot of teams in the NFL don't have a coach that they fight for, and this team is. So I wouldn't consider firing him at all.
Birdie, this was the first bet he made all week. Did you get the 8, Birdie? Okay, let's move on. Bebsie moving on the Lions +7. I think I'm going to as well. I expect to. Let's move on to the Sunday Nighter. This one could be a beauty. 8:20 p.m. Eastern. Minnesota Vikings 7-8, 3-5 on the road at Green Bay Packers 12-3, 7-0 at home. Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The Green Bay to win the division was just -150, and that was late. I think it started at a better number at -150. And with me humming and hawing, I ended up taking too long getting it at -163. But I made a decent sized bet, and it was I don't know if there's an easier casher in this North Division. Lambeau Field, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Let's start with the market here. Again, of those of you watching this video cut up, this is Tuesday night, and Green Bay opening up at -7. They're now 6.5 right across the board. This total opened up at 48. It's now 47.5. Let's move over to the live odds or market moves. At this point, we have just 3,391 tickets in. There'll be 80,000 tickets on this game to 100,000 at least. 33% of the tickets, 35% of the cash on Minnesota. Not a lot, but it's moved a half point towards them. Then 69% of tickets and 75% on cash on the under. Vikings come in off a disappointing 30-23 loss at home to a tired, COVID-ravaged Rams squad. They picked off Stafford 3 times and couldn't win the game or cover the 3 points. Cousins was 27-38 for 315 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. His interception was his 4th in the last 3 games. He was only picked off 3 times in the first 12 games of the year. Justin Jefferson caught 8 passes for 116 yards. KJ Osborne caught 5 for 68 and a touchdown. With Dalvin Cook out of the lineup, Alexander Madison was below average. I mean, it was okay. 13 carries for 41 yards and touchdown. He also caught 3 passes for 29 yards. Vikings defense intercepted Stafford 3 times, twice by Anthony Barr, once by Xavier Woods. Vikings combined for 0 sacks and 5 quarterback hits. Adam Thielen returned from a 2-game absence with 3 catches for 40 yards, but he aggravated the injury twice and barely, he played 1 series in the second half. Cook was joined on the COVID-19 reserve list by backup quarterback Sean Mannion and backup offensive tackle Rashad Hill. Mason Cole elbow on the injured reserve. Oli Udoh returned back to his original starting right guard spot. Let's just quickly take a look at what's going on with this Minnesota team. They've added that Dalvin Cook is expected to clear the protocols and be acted from the reserve list ahead of this game. So Dalvin Cook is expected to be back in the lineup. Adam Thielen is sore, hopeful to be back on the field in Green Bay. So those are good signs there. Those are good signs. But we just talked about Udoh, the guard. He's now on the reserve COVID list. He was put on the COVID list yesterday. We talked about Rashad Hill. He was put on the COVID list on Sunday with Mannion. This team doesn't have a ton of issues. They're going to get Dalvin Cook back and Thielen could play. Let's start with the Vikings. Brady says, I'm taking the Vikings, but I'm hoping I get a 7 or 7.5 if I wait. One thing Zimmer does well is defend Rodgers. Plus, Rodgers' toe is an issue again. Let's start with the Vikings before we get into the Packers. What are your thoughts on that disappointing loss to the Rams? And do you feel like they could be a live dog here in this big division battle with the Packers?
I said this last week. I've said this a bunch this year. This Minnesota Vikings team is better than their record, which is why Zimmer will be fired the day after the season ends for them. And this is a divisional matchup. So I think they're very much in play. I think they're still in striking distance for a wild card spot. I don't have the confidence in them to bet them, but I do think they could potentially keep this very close. I still think Green Bay wins because eyes on the prize for them. They want to have that number 1 seed. They would love for teams to have to come into Lambeau. As Bertie mentioned earlier, nobody wants to go to Lambeau, and the Green Bay Packers are happy to be hosting there. So, look, I think this is going to be a great football game. This is going to be, I think the over would be my look. I lean the Vikings to cover, not confident enough to bet it. I'm going to sit back and enjoy this as a fan because I think it's going to be a great game. And look, Minnesota, they have skill there. They have talent. They just have a shitty coach. And if they maintain the same roster next year with a better coach, they're going to be a very dangerous team. But I lean them. I don't have the confidence to bet them, though.
There's been a recency bias for underwhelming Packers victories. They beat the Browns by 2 points, beat the Ravens by 1 point. Both times, the Ravens went for a 2-point conversion to win. The Browns were, that was a hold, a defensive hold on the 4th interception. Blatant as anything I've seen maybe since that Saints playoff victory. We're trying to create a situation where those calls don't, dictate the final score. But the Browns put themselves in that situation and deserve to lose because of that. Do you think that this bias has people believing that the Packers won't turn it up for a divisional rivalry game and put their foot on the throat of these Vikings?
That's why I don't have the confidence to bet. I just think this Packers defense, as good as they have been playing, they're still very vulnerable. They've lost key pieces. They're still getting production, but again, this Vikings offense has a ton of skill to match them stride for stride. So putting their foot on their throat is what they're certainly going to try to do, and this is why I think the over is in play, because I think this winds up being a bit of a shootout. Yeah, look, Green Bay is the better team. They should win. 6.5 points is maybe a little more than I would like to bet them, but I think they're more than capable of covering that as well. This Minnesota Vikings team has had so many games come down to the wire and games that they've lost. And I think this could be another one of those games.
It's going to be 3 Fahrenheit, which is minus 16 Celsius. Almost no wind and, no, I shouldn't say that, but 9 miles per hour wind. And then no snow. It's going to be a nice, night, but freezing cold. How do you think a team that's playing indoors like the Vikings is going to handle that cold temperature?
Kirk has looked bad again. I'm getting very anti-Kirk. Yeah, he doesn't look bad for many games in a row. I again advantage Green Bay in that situation, but these cold weather games don't have the effect they did with all the technology and heating pads and all this stuff. It's the sloppy games that matter. It's the snowstorm games that really hamper teams. Like, yeah, they'll be cold, but it's not like, I understand they're an indoor team, but it's not like these guys haven't played in cold weather. I don't think it's going to be a massive advantage.
Trusty said, I don't think it matters because Minnesota's in the north anyway. I don't know. They're still an indoor team. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I can understand that the Vikings look very appealing with the way the Packers have been finishing off games. Birdie says it's 47.5 over. Is there anything you want to make official for the Sunday nighter at this point?
I think I am going to move on this over. I think we see a lot of points in this one.
This total opened up at 48, dropped to 47.5, and we have 69% of tickets on the under, 75% of cash on the under. 46.5. Let's see what we could get you for the Sunday night game. By the way, Circa's moved this to 6. That's interesting. They're still hanging a 47.5 at minus 107. I imagine that we should be able to beat that somewhere. 47.5. Wow, the over 47.5 is at plus 103 at Pinnacle, saying that it's going to go down to 47 imminently. 47.5 at Bet365. We'll try FanDuel quickly here. And at FanDuel, we have 47.5. Do you want the over 47.5 at plus 103? Or would you rather
give me that plus money?
All right, let's do it. Brady says you can bet the Packers below the 7. You can tease the Packers in a long teaser to a half. Won't be betting the Packers in the game where books will be facing massive liability if the Packers just win. Trusty says, if you had to take a side, who would you take? If I had to take a side right now on a free play, I would take the Vikings with the points. But I would understand that the reason why I think that is because of what I've watched the last 2 weeks. And that's a very dangerous thing when you're dealing with a bias from what you've seen the last 2 weeks. And that would make me pause and think about it longer. If you had a free play on the side, Bebsie, it would be Vikings as well?
I would do the same. And I don't think that's a recency bias. It's another thing that I've been saying all year, and it's been kicked me in the face a few times this year, but Minnesota is better than their record, and I think they will play well against Green Bay. I don't think it's a recency bias. I think it's just this team is much better than 7-8.
All right, Bebsie's locked in on the over 47.5 at plus 103 at Pinnacle. I have not moved on the Sunday nighter at this point. We do our Sunday show, though, in the morning. And this Sunday, we'll see if there are any additions. Let's move on to the Monday nighter. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns, 7-8, 2-5 on the road at Pittsburgh Steelers, 7-7-1, 5-2-1 at home. We're in Heinz Field. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Mac Beaver says awful non-call against the Browns, resulting in the Packer pick, the fourth pick. Says Browns were driving for a winning field goal. This was after 3 previous Baker picks. Now, we did have a practice roster kicker who may or may not have kicked the field goal. But not getting there really hurt me. The 2 games in Vegas and Green Bay really hurt me because I had the over 9.5 wins and I had the Browns to win the division. And those bets are screwed, and the Browns have a 9% chance of making the playoffs now. But it will start with them beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's see what we are dealing with. The Browns open up as 3-point road dogs. That's moved to 3.5 at some books. It's still at 3 at most. From a total perspective, we have this total opening up at 41, and there's been no movement there. 41 had to pick them either way. With the market here, we have just 2,811 picks. Again, this game is 6 days away. 41% of the tickets are on the Steelers, but 64% of cash is on the Steelers. The last Monday night of Big Ben's career. We have 72% of tickets on the under and 49% of cash on the under, yet it has not moved. Browns coming off in a heartbreaking 24-22 loss to Green Bay on Saturday. Baker 21-36 for 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Rashawn Gary had 2 of the Packers' 5 sacks. This offensive line for the Browns was decimated. Jedrick Wills and center J.C. Treader, both on the COVID-19 list. And even with that, Nick Chubb was a monster. 17 carries for 126 yards and a touchdown. He caught 3 passes for 58 yards. Rashard Higgins caught 5 passes for 58 yards. Jarvis Landry 4 for 55. Their underman defense did well against Rodgers. They finished with no sacks, but did have 4 quarterback hits. Let's just take a look at this Browns squad, if there's been any update for the COVID issues that they've been going through. Again, this game pops off not for 6 days. But these are the COVID issues. Well, Auden Tate, who cares? He's already on. So Auden Tate was put there today. Sorry, that's Cincinnati. What the hell am I talking about, Auden Tate? Kareem Hunt is going to be good to go. They didn't put anybody on the COVID list today. Yesterday, they put Elijah Lee and Drew Forbes on the COVID list. Troy Hill was activated. Ronnie Harrison Jr. was activated. Those are good signs. Alex Taylor and Jordan Elliott were on the COVID list before the game started, and these are the other guys that we know. J.C. Treader, Greg Newsome, who's already dealing with a concussion. It wasn't like he was playing anyways. Tack McKinley, who's done, so it doesn't matter there. Tony Fields, Stephen Carlson. You know, that COVID list is getting lighter and lighter and lighter. Lighter and lighter and lighter, that COVID list. Pittsburgh comes in off an ugly 36-10 loss at Kansas City. They became the first team in NFL history. Listen to this. The first team in NFL history to trail by at least 23 points at halftime in 3 straight road games. That's how bad they've become. They've become historically bad. They failed to score a touchdown in the first half of 5 straight games. First time since 1940. Bebsie, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that they might be the first team in history to be getting blown out that bad and still celebrating meaningless plays.
Well, that touchdown by Deontay Johnson cost me the under, and that made me extremely, extremely angry. Roethlisberger was 23 of 35 for 159 yards, touchdown and a pick. He lost a fumble. Deontay Johnson caught 6 passes for 51 yards and a touchdown. He also lost a fumble. Najee Harris ran 19 times for 93 yards. Their defense was picked apart. Spillane had 13 tackles. Minkah Fitzpatrick had 12. They managed just 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits. This COVID list includes linebacker Marcus Allen, offensive tackle Zach Banner, linebacker Devin Bush. He's a big one. Defensive end Isaiah Buggs, running back Anthony McFarland. Then defensive tackle Chris Wormley, linebacker Buddy Johnson, and tight end Pat Freiermuth dealing with a concussion, were inactive last week and are listed as questionable this week. Here we go, Bebsie. I'm going to go back to see if anything's come up in the last few hours on their COVID list. But here we go, Bebsie. We have an angry Browns squad with 1 hope left. We have a Steelers squad with Big Ben playing his final Monday nighter, and they still could win 2 games and get into the playoffs, even though they're atrocious. And we see big bets coming in on the Steelers, shockingly. But they are home dogs in the divisional game. And we know that Sharps will almost blindly bet home dogs in the divisional game. Take it away, Bebsie, Browns, Steelers, Monday nighter.
Well, I guess what I'm going to say is a direct conflict with that, but I think it's Browns or no play. I'm probably not going to bet it because I wonder what they'll shoot Big Ben up with to play his last Monday Night Football game, and if he plays moderate to well, they have a shot. Somebody tweeted earlier this week, and it's one of the funnier things I've read in football recently. But they said Baker Mayfield is just sober Johnny Manziel, which I thought was outstanding. Great work. It's not terribly inaccurate. And look, he's part of the reason why I won't back them. I've said this before. Everything has to be going right for Baker to play well. He needs great weapons and an excellent run game and a great O-line for him to play well. He's been missing parts of that. His O-line's been injured here and there. His running backs have been out. His receiving core is less than it was when OBJ was there. And he's just not – he's not a guy I want to lay money with. But I do believe that this Pittsburgh Steelers team is bad, and they are terrible on run defense. And the Cleveland Browns have Nick Chubb, and he's an absolute beast. So I would lean the Browns, but it's Big Ben, Monday night, last game ever. Hard to bet against that. So I'm staying off of this. Logic says the Browns win, but who knows? Who knows what Big Ben, what drugs he'll be on to have a decent night.
I think you just talked me off the Browns. That's what I think you just did. And I think that makes sense. Slatsy says, as a lifetime Steelers fan, I will be so happy to move on from Ben. Crystal Warren says, I just can't. Oh, say what, Bebsie?
No, our good friend Rob Pugh has always been a Steelers fan, but cannot cheer for them because of Big Ben. So I think he'll be happy to see him move on as well.
Yeah, my girlfriend got me a Roethlisberger jersey right after the second bathroom assault, and didn't get a lot of use out of that jersey.
No, you don't want to be wearing that jersey.
No, he seems to have changed in a very positive way and raising a family and all that stuff. But Crystal Warren says, I just can't get around betting against Ben's last Monday game. I agree with Bebs. He's going to get far levels of meds for this game. The Chameleon says he's not even reading defenses correctly. Okay, so
that could apply to both quarterbacks. So are you talking about Ben?
Yeah.
You're talking about Baker.
I knew we were in trouble when Baker had the private plane, but I know he only had to do that because he didn't pass the COVID test that day. But Slatsy says Hollywood script, NFL wants a win for Big Ben. You know that. Well, you have talked me off of the Browns at this point. You've talked me off of the Browns. Let's just quickly touch on the total before we put a bow on this show and go over all of our action. What do you think of this total at 41? I'm going to just grab the weather report here very quickly, but what is your lean on the total?
I think that's a sharp total because I see it landing somewhere around there. I can't pick a guaranteed under, but I think it's going to have to be a run-heavy attack for both teams, so I expect a reasonably low-scoring affair. But a sharp total there that I suppose I would lean to the under if I was forced to make that pick, but not with much confidence.
Well, that is the Monday Nighter, 6 days away, and I think you talked a lot of sense in this spot, and I don't need to compound losses on the Browns. These last 2 weeks really hurt me with my futures because I have some nice-looking futures. And then the Browns is just a money pit for me. Robert Allen taking the Browns Pie Guy says Baker's number one receiver is the opponent's defense. That is the Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers, your Monday nighter. Let's review all action here for week 17 in the NFL. The next Tuesday show, I will be back in Parkdale. I expect, but who knows with COVID and what's going on right now? Who knows what Carter's sick with? I have no idea. Maybe it's COVID. Who knows? Maybe I'm staying in LA for that show. But I plan to be back in sweet Parkdale for the next Tuesday show. Okay, the under in Falcons Bills, I am going to move on. I'm going to move on. The Giants team total under does interest me in the Bears Giants. It does interest me. I don't know if I believe in the Bears defense enough, but it does interest me. And I think the reason why this total would interest me is there's no way, or it's unlikely, right, Bebsie, that the Bears are up, 28-7.
Extremely unlikely.
They let the foot off their gas, because that was the only way I didn't cash the Giants team total under in the last 5 weeks was 1 week against the Chargers when the Chargers were way ahead and the Giants scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. So, okay. So I'm going to take a closer look at that this evening. Then Bebsie gets his card started with the Chiefs -4.5, -109 at Circa. Crystal Warren, thank you so much. Damon Santori, I expect Akeem Hicks to be back, but it's COVID, so we don't know. Says, got to go walk the dogs before they pee on my new rug. Thanks for cheering up this Marine mom missing her boy already. Crystal Warren, we love you. We love capping with you. Thanks for spending time with us, hanging out with us, and any chance we get to put a smile on your face means a lot to us. So thank you for hanging with us, and thank you for your insights and your humor and everything that you bring to the table. We love it. Robert Allen, thank you so much. Man, I love you too, my guy. So Chiefs -4.5, -109 at Circa. Then I'm going to move on the under in Miami, Tennessee. Bebsie moved on the Dolphins +3.5 at -110. And I get why he did that. And maybe I'll take a little bit more time. Then Raiders at Colts. It's off the book. My local access, Bet365, he uses that site for his action. So but it's available right now if anybody wants it at Circa +6.5. Then the Jaguars, Bebsie moved on the team total under 13.5 at -114. That was available at Pinnacle. I didn't write that down. I get that look. Then Bebsie moved on the Buccaneers -12 at -110. That was available at Circa. Let's write that down. Then I'm going to wait to bet on Washington, but I'm going to bet on them. I think that I'll get a really nice. I think I get 4.5 at home against the Eagles, and I don't trust the Eagles on the road. And the Eagles are going to be hurting badly at the running back position. I mean, Boston Scott is not incapable of being RB1. Then I'm going to move on the Ravens +3.5 tonight. I think that when the 2019 MVP is announced in the lineup, that will move to 3. So I'll take the half point here. Broncos Chargers. Look, my dad and I are going to have action on the game. We're just not sure what at this point, and I haven't figured out yet. We'll be there live at the game. Then Texans, Niners, no action. Then we have Cardinals, Cowboys. Bebsie's moved on the Cowboys -5 at -110, available at FanDuel. I have not. Then the Saints -6.5 makes sense to me. I think I move on it now. I expect Taysom Hill to be back, and I think when he's announced back, it'll move to 7 or 7.5. And if only Simeon comes back, I'm still okay with it. Bebsie moved on the under 38.5 at -110. Then Bebsie moved on the Lions +7 at -109 at Pinnacle. I get it. It's going to be a very, very public side. That makes me really nervous. But why would the Lions not be able to stay in this game with the Seahawks giving up sort of, or at least not carrying as much? Then Bebsie moved on the Minnesota Green Bay Packers over 47.5 at +103 at Pinnacle. The market's moving away from him. He's taking the plus line, even though a 47 probably would be available tomorrow. But a plus line is nice to have. Lower the VIG as much as possible. And then Browns Steelers, he talked me off the Browns, and that's fine. That's fine. I've lost enough there. Burgundy Bets says, have a good one, Jets. Rams are the play. Love you, Burgundy Bets. Jared TG says the Pigeons are waiting. Robert Allen says, go Gophers -6 in the G-Rate Bowl. Bebsie, my man, this is our last show of 2021. your birthday is coming up. Bebsie's birthday's on New Year's Eve. Those of you in the north, those of you anywhere around Toronto, Bebsie, tell us what you're doing on your birthday.
Probably nothing because there's nothing to do anymore.
Oh, shit, they canceled that. They canceled that gig.
Yeah, I was supposed to have a show at Comedy Bar. I was really looking forward to it. It was a great lineup, and unfortunately, it's not going to happen now. So, who knows? I think I'm just going to be chilling.
I'm sorry. That was not my. Last thing I wanted to do is end it on this fucking note. Sorry,
It's quite all right.
I thought you were going to pitch your huge show at Comedy Bar.
No, I got nothing to pitch. Currently, everything is being canceled.
Hello, gentlemen. It's nice to see you as always. I'll pitch something since we're here and try not to end on a shitty note. We have an end-of-year show this Thursday, the 30th, aka no wait, that's the 31st, Bebsie's birthday. I don't know dates anymore. Sorry, Bebsie. But we have an end of year review show, the 30th, Betting with the Bag. Watch it on the YouTube show. It's going to be fantastic.
Beautiful. Thank you. I thought the news break was that Bebsie's New Year's show was canceled. I thought maybe he was going to do it for a laugh, but no, we do have. Hey there, Ella. We're closing the show. Do you want to say hi to everybody? Yeah, we're going to say bye to everybody. You want to come say Happy New Year to everybody?
I wonder what Ella got for Christmas. Bebsie, what did you get for Christmas?
Come here quickly. The show's about to end.
Cocktail making stuff.
Come here.
Cocktail making stuff? Is that the lead the hangover? Oh, the onesie gang. I'm also in a onesie too, Ella. You just can't tell.
You know you're Ella. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching and for supporting our show here at Pub Sports Radio. All you guys in the chat, Robin Allen, Chris Brady, Real Deal Prime, Slatsy, Burgundy Bets, Damon Santori, Mike. We had lots of great stuff from Birdie Day. Dennis Trusty, The Chameleon, Jared TG, Crystal Warren, Harold Williams. Thank you guys so much. We love you guys. And you want to say good luck, everybody?
Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, let's get that cash. Let's have a big week 17. I need a bounce back. Let's go. On behalf of Bebsie, Jose, myself, everybody at Pub Sports Radio, let's have a big start to 2021. Let's go. Let's get paid. Let's get